free on the 215 westbound at Rainbow Boulevard to watch out for. Pros do it right by shopping at Lowe's to save on the supplies they need most from the brands they trust to get the job done. Do it right for less starts with Lowe's. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This holiday season, get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off during their holiday sale.
As soon as I got to law school, I realized this is what I've been waiting for.
We call our clients, we hold their hand. It's a hand-holding business. It's what we do.
Sam and Ash, your personal injury attorneys. Find them at samandash.com.
If you call our office, you will be talking to an attorney, if not immediately, within 5-10 minutes. Those 5 to 10 minutes, those are rare instances. Most often it's Sam or me handling those calls.
Anytime anybody is getting legal help, it's because they're in crisis. But also their health is impacted. In many cases, they're in pain.
It's just invaluable talking to someone right away. And so Sam and I are very passionate about that.
If you're not taking time to talk to your client, then you're doing it wrong. I think a lot of lawyers are like that.
You need an attorney that's focused on helping you get to the end and recovery that you deserve.
Ashley and I are just regular people. We're listeners.
Find out more at samandash.com or call 1-800-304-2000. Sam and Ash, because you deserve what's right.
The client is first in everything that happens. That's just how it has to work.
You can change the world for a child in extreme poverty through Compassion International. Just text CHILD to 83393 to find out how.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
If your retirement plan is on set it and forget it, it's time to take control. Tune in for Financial Safari with America's Wealth Coach and best-selling author, Coach Pete D'Arruda. For more than 25 years, Coach Pete has been helping people just like you plan for retirement. Join Coach Pete every week as he discusses topics like why your retirement plan should also be an income plan and how to make sure you're getting the most out of your 401k.
Financial Safari with Coach Pete, Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and Sunday afternoon at 2 on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, what's up, everybody? It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro, so glad you could join us. 2020, baby.
Calendar's turn.
Right, 2020. Next time you talk to you, make sure your
make sure
mic
the mic's on.
Anyway,
Calendar's turn. It probably didn't even matter.
Yes. Anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. We got a lot to get to, a lot to go over. I want to know how everyone's New Year's Day was, New Year's Eve. We will get to that here in just a few minutes. Always fun to have this guy on the show. I guess you could call him a controversial figure. Certainly, he's said some very controversial things in the past, and he happens to be running for the presidency of the United States in the Republican Party. Joe Walsh will be joining us coming up here at the bottom of the hour, so that's going to be a lot of fun. In the 10 a.m. hour, we've covered this story really all week in regards to this horrible car accident, arguably one of the worst, if not the worst crashes based on the circumstances, where 3 people lost their lives, actually 4 people, including the driver, and 2 kids are in the hospital in critical condition. And now they've released the name of the person that caused this crash, and he is getting a lot of backlash. In fact, even some members of his family on social media are people are going after them. I'm going to tell you why I think that's wrong, and I think we need to wait, and we certainly shouldn't go after family members. It wasn't their fault that this guy decided to drive recklessly and, pretty much just ruin a family and kill 3 people. And so we'll get to that coming up in hour number 2, but certainly I have some strong opinions on that and a little bit more information on the person that caused this crash, a little bit about his life. What did he do for work? Why was he put in that position where he was at minimum reckless driving, going in at a high rate of speed? Anyway, we'll get to that coming up in hour number 2. Hour number 3, sad news in the sports world. David Stern passing away yesterday, I believe, at the age of 77, if I'm not mistaken. and I had a brain hemorrhage, and very sad news. I had a chance to interview David Stern when he was in town for the NBA All-Star Weekend. I had a one-on-one interview with him. He couldn't have been more cordial to me. However, he ruffled some feathers with some people, but he also did some great things for basketball. So we're going to be talking about that. Give credit where credit is due for the UNLV basketball program. They had a big win last night. And, you know, I don't think I've said more than maybe one or two positive things about UNLV basketball in the last 7 or 8 years. But I did say something positive about TJ last week. And I'm going to tell you that what that positive thing that I said is now paying off. We'll explain exactly what that is, why UNLV beat a team that, for the most part, is a top 50 team in the country. We'll talk about that in Utah State coming up in hour number 3 as well. It's Thursday. That means Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports will be joining us, and we also have a very funny Gronk story to tell you about, and it involves Steve Harvey. That makes it even better. I wish Steve Harvey's daughter was up on this stage when Gronk kind of embarrassed Steve Harvey. Anyway, we'll talk about that, what Gronk did on national television, coming up here in just a little bit. You know, all the guys are in studio. Of course, JD, Chris Wynn is here because yesterday, you know, we took the day off because it was New Year's Day. And I also have to announce, apparently our producer thought he could just go on vacation for 3 or 4 weeks, but he's finally back today. Jason Stein is finally back. So, Jason, how was your, extra vacation, I should say? Because all normal people take a week off, but you decided to take
3 or 4 days.
Monday and
to
Tuesday
be with my family. And
Who
then
cares
also,
about your?
and then
cares?
also, I had to basically produce this show from afar. I'm getting calls. So apparently, Brian doesn't understand the concept of time zones. I'm getting calls from him at midnight my time when I'm trying to sleep. You know, saying, "What are we doing on the show tomorrow?" So, yeah, that was my vacation. Thanks for asking.
What do you mean, Stein? The world just revolves around Mr.
King
Brian
Brian,
Shapiro, doesn't it? That's a plan. That's the
King
plan.
Brian.
I'm sorry if I thought for a split second there that you actually had a social life and you might be up past 8 p.m. I'm sorry that
you know that's not true.
I'm sorry that I was wrong about that. New Year's Eve, I actually was out in Prim, believe it or not, and went to a pretty cool 80s themed party out there. It was a lot of fun, and I actually hit up Jason and I said, why don't you come out with us? And of course, he's a loner and he stayed home. And then he said that he had a date on the app Bumble, and then he sends me a picture of a woman that was a large woman. And I thought he was telling the truth.
I could have been,
but he wasn't. He was just mocking.
I had a delicious Subway sandwich, a cold cut combo.
Sounds fun.
You thought he would.
I splurged because it was New Year's, and
sounds fun.
So, Brian, I've been to obviously 80s themed parties here in Las Vegas. What's an 80s themed party like in Prim, Nevada?
Well, first of all, let me say,
very good question, Chris.
I felt like it was myself. I felt like I was in a convalescent home. Let me just start out there. I think I was the youngest person there, and I was 39 years old. I'm 39. Everyone was like, could have been my grandpa out there. And here's the worst thing about this party I went to. And as you all know, I'm not a drinker, right? I'm not a big alcohol drinker, but I did have a few shots. So this party, they said it was open bar, and it's only $20. So I thought, wow, that's too good to be true, right? We all go to this party. All they're serving is beer and the most generic wine you could think of. It was disgusting. So we had to leave the party, me and my friend. We leave the party and drink shots at the bar, paying for it, then going back into the supposed open bar. So they screwed everybody. There's no question about that.
And I'm the one who's lame. I'm the one who had the lame New Year's.
Well, no, I'd much rather be sandwich by myself.
Yeah, I was trying to make excuses for why I didn't want to see him.
All right. Anyway,
and so I lied about being on a Bumble date. But
all right.
Yeah. Okay.
Stein, nobody cares. All right.
Well, let's talk about your co-host.
I don't want to talk about you for more than 2 minutes because I get bored.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Here's my New Year's resolution: find a new job and find some new friends.
Yeah.
How about that?
Good luck with that because you've been trying that your entire life. Anyway, JD, I'm sorry, that was a little mean. All right, JD, let's go to you first. I want to ask there's parts of the show where we have a little bit of fun. We talk about a lot of serious subjects on this show, of course.
Zero fun, sir.
Well, JD, what is your New Year's resolution? By the way, you're looking a little Clark Kentish today with your glasses. I like it, actually. It actually makes you look intelligent.
Well,
I like that.
I actually went to a roaring 20s party. I don't know why you went to an 80s party when it was 2020. That makes no sense to me, Brian.
Because it was cheap.
Well, you decided to go to the Prim to an 80s party.
Well, I'm not a millennial like you.
Because they're still living in the 80s.
Who cares?
I didn't want. I'll tell you what I didn't want. I didn't want to go to a party.
Anyways, I dressed up.
No, I didn't want to go to a party. No, you just insulted me, so now I have to defend I didn't want to go to a party and listen to Bruno Mars every 3 seconds. I didn't want to go to a stupid millennial party where every single person is on their cell phone taking selfies. That annoys the hell out of me. I'd rather hang out with old people that smell than to hang out with a bunch of young people that are taking selfies with their pretty girlfriend or boyfriend. I didn't want that. I'm
just not surprised that you went to an 80s party on New Year's Eve 2020 with a bunch of
well, where did you go?
Geriatrics.
Mr. Slick, where did you go?
Well,
what was this hot Hollywood party that you went to?
I wouldn't call it a hot. It was a house party. I actually I got incredibly intoxicated for the first time in about 2.5 years.
Congratulations!
I drank very, very heavily. I had a blast. I was dressed up like Leonardo,
like the Gatsby's,
and the Great Gatsby. My wife was dressed up in kind of the similar fashion, and so was the entire. It was a themed party.
You look very happy, by the way, in the picture I saw. You looked ecstatic to be there.
I actually was. I had a really, really good time at that
you
party.
Look like you look like I needed to pop a couple anxiety antidepressant pills your way. That's what you look like.
Which picture
I'm
are you
just
talking
saying,
about?
the picture,
there's a whole bunch of pictures on there.
The picture that I saw, you looked severely depressed. You look like the way Stein looks every day when I see him. That's what you look like.
But in a tuxedo.
Exactly.
See, I don't even buy that at all, Brian. There's no way. The one picture that you could have seen was on my personal Facebook page, posted by my wife, and I do not look at
your
all
wife looked extremely happy,
as you described in that.
Your wife
in that
looked,
particular photo.
Your wife looked fantastic, and she looked extremely happy. You just didn't look like you were extremely happy. That's all.
Actually, I had a very, very good time. I'm glad I went to the party, but
right.
I am still feeling now. Being 34 years old, not being 24, 25, I am still feeling the effects of the large amount of alcohol that I consumed.
Well, you know what? You hold a very good poker face. I'll say that. And I was going to say that should make you a good poker player because nobody knows the hand you're dealt. But you're not a good poker player. No, I'm just kidding. You are a good poker player.
Maybe it was just a bad photo. maybe he had a
no.
blast.
His wife looked fantastic.
It's just a photo. You know,
right,
it's
fine.
just a photo. Right?
Stop defending him. It's not your job. You're the producer. Your job isn't to defend my co-host. He can defend himself. Isn't that right, JD? What is your 2020 resolution, by the way? Who cares about your stupid party?
I'm not even sure about my 2020 resolution. I'll let you go. I'll let you guys go first.
What do you mean? No,
and then I'll reply next.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm not even certain about it.
You don't have a resolution. Nothing you could think of.
It's
nothing.
It's business oriented, and it has to do with the valuation of one particular business that I'm actively involved in. Very, very.
How about get rid of those stupid cats out of your house? How about that?
I have one cat in my house.
How about get rid of your cat? What do you think about that?
Why would I get rid of my cat, Brian?
Because I hate cats, and I thought you would too.
So, since the world does revolve around you, and
it does,
everything
absolutely.
that you could possibly come in contact with should
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Eliminated immediately. No, I actually like my cat, kind of like I like my picture that I took on New Year's Eve. You're very, very negative today, and I'm not understanding why.
Time out.
It must be because you stayed out till 5 o'clock in the morning last
I'm not
night
on
and gambled.
sleep. That's
Time
true.
out. Do you actually have your name engraved on those glasses?
I actually do. Yeah.
I'm looking. I'm staring at it.
Wait, you're wearing glasses and your
on
name
the
is
side
engraved
of the
on
glasses. It says JD Sharp. Here, can we show these for the YouTube viewers? You want to take?
By the way, we are broadcasting live on YouTube.
There.
It is the Vegas Take page.
This is
and we're
bonus.
talking. Yeah.
Is this the camera right here?
We're talking about New Year's resolutions.
Oh, right here. Look at
And
bonus.
now we're talking about JD's glasses because his name is engraved on his glasses.
It's bonus coverage if you watch on
That is
YouTube.
bizarre.
I've never seen
seen.
like that?
No, I've never seen. Well, my names are engraved on the condoms that I use. I mean, I get those specially done.
Nothing
All
says
right,
humility like a monogram.
Okay, let's move on now. I'm glad you had a good New Year's Eve, JD. I'm sorry if I'm being too negative.
I appreciate that,
apologize. I'm always negative. You know that. All right, let's go to Chris Wynn. Stein's last and everything. Let's go to Chris Wynn. Chris, what are your New Year's resolutions?
Well,
my
my New Year's resolution. Look, when you think about this, and YouGov.com has done a poll about all the New Year's resolutions that are popular among Americans, and it goes from everything from eating healthier to getting more exercise to
you're definitely going to do that.
To getting your financial situation in order.
You're definitely going to do that too.
Yeah, exactly right, Brian. to making new friends, maybe trying out a new skill trade, something along those lines. Me, I'm going to focus, guys, on health, on self-care. I'm going to try to get more sleep. I'm going to try to take care of myself better because, look, as we all understand here, we are in Las Vegas, a town where things can get out of control a little bit when it comes to lifestyles, right? And I've been one who's been one of those individuals who likes to go out and have a good time and tear it up a little bit. So I need to focus a little bit more on my own personal self-care.
Wait, hold on a second.
So that's my resolution.
Hold on a second.
Get more sleep.
So
that's my resolution.
So your resolution won't be, maybe I shouldn't play Caveman Keno until 6 in the morning.
I love
every
my
day.
Caveman Keno.
So
that's not going anywhere. I love my regular Keno. That's not going anywhere.
All right,
so,
fine.
hey, I'm not. The points of New Year's resolutions are to be realistic, right, guys? They're supposed to be something that you can focus on and actually do.
All right, fine, fair enough.
I know a lot of people throw stuff out there for New Year's resolutions and say, I'd like to do it, but I necessarily don't necessarily follow through on it.
We all want.
I want to follow through.
We all want you to get healthy. I think that is a fair resolution. Much
I
better.
didn't say get healthy. I said just get a little more self-care.
More sleep.
Yes.
It was better than JD's resolution. He's confused. He doesn't know really what.
I didn't even hear a resolution.
I don't
He's
really.
confused.
I don't really have a resolution to be
right.
completely honest. I have decade goals. We'll put it that way.
It doesn't have to, guys. It doesn't have to be that complicated. JD was talking about
myself. Decade goals.
JD
What
was
kind of a
mentioning it.
weirdo does that? That's the weirdest decade goals. What?
Things I'd like to accomplish by the time I'm 44 years old. And it's 2030.
JD, it doesn't have to be that complicated, man. Like it's a New Year's resolution.
You're overthinking it.
You can
yes.
say it off the top of your head.
I'm not.
I thought your New Year's resolution was going to be I'm going to change it up and I'm not going to wear a white shirt for once in my life. You're wearing a blue shirt today. It's a very nice shirt.
I purchased a bunch of different colored tees that I'll be.
So that could have been
slowly
putting on display.
That could have been a resolution
for our live stream.
All right, let's.
But no,
I like
it. I think more macro than to me. 1 year is micro. I think more macro and long term. And so yes, I have decade goals.
By the way, for the record,
I'm not gonna try to lose 10 pounds in a year and put on 5 pounds of muscle.
Fair enough.
And talk about sleeping less or sleeping more, despite the fact that I'm going to play 10 hours of Keno twice a week.
So Brian, so JD's New Year's resolution is that he's gonna break down why we don't need to have specific New Year's resolutions.
I guess so. All right, so you use the term micro. That is usually the term that Stein's dates use when they see him naked. Anyway, I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there. Mr. Stein, you are next.
The worst.
Mr. Stein, you are next. Okay.
I thought I already. I would reiterate that I find some new friends, find a new job. No, maybe as far as dating goes,
that was funny.
I told you yesterday when we went to our favorite restaurant, our favorite establishment.
Yes.
That
Arby's.
No, that's up there though. That's up there. No, I'm gonna give a shout out the New York Bagel Cafe. That place is fantastic. But I told you yesterday when we were eating our bagels that my New Year's resolution would be to
sounds very Jewish.
So a couple of Jewish guys
only date people that I'm actually attracted to.
Going on there.
Yeah, right.
Oh, really?
That's why we like it.
I like that a lot, Stein.
So did you hear that? So yes. So only
solid.
date people I'm physically attracted to.
And actually, I didn't.
Wow, what a great New Year's resolution.
I didn't
as
hear
opposed
that.
to as opposed to making out with people that you're not attracted to.
That is correct.
Chris is sitting right next to you. You might as well
I'm trying to figure out what you actually do. You go out with people that you don't find attractive? Is that you challenge yourself or something? Is that like a personal challenge?
I try to find the silver lining.
Right. I like that.
All right,
the redeeming quality, and then I see him naked, and then it's all out the window.
Well, he's challenging himself to have a strong enough personality to hang out with a person for 3 or 4 hours that he's not physically attracted to.
Yeah, but those days are over.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm going to be a lot more shallow.
I thought your 2020 resolution was you're going to recite the Bible every day before you go to work. I thought that's what you were going to do. Actually, here's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, before I give my New Year's resolution, I'm going to say what your New Year's resolution should be. Okay. Now I'm thinking out loud here. I have not thought about this at all. This is very spontaneous. Yes, I do think Stein needs to find some new friends so I don't have to spend so much time with him. I think I like that New Year's resolution. I do like the fact that he's going to attempt to go out with women that are attracted to him. Just he's assuming that they're going to be attracted, to him as you're going to be attracted. You see what I'm saying here. That might be a little tricky, but hey, we'll see what happens.
What was the question?
No, it's not a question.
Oh.
All right. I think those are good New Year's resolutions. I think JD's resolution should be he should be the best sports handicapper in Las Vegas. That should be your goal. But since that's a decade goal, we'll leave it as a decade goal. But I think that's a good reachable goal to have. For Chris Wynn, I don't think it's about sleep because you can go to sleep at 7 a.m. in the morning and be up all morning. You could sleep for 15 hours. That's still not healthy for you, my friend. You need normal hours. Try going to sleep before the sun comes up. I think that would be a fair resolution. Okay, yes. So that's okay. As far as my resolution, I want to be a bigger jerk than I was in 2019. That's number one. Number two, I want to be as mean as possible to everybody that's associated with this show. So that's my second. And my third New Year's resolution, and I'm going to hang up on callers, and I'm going to be more mean to them than ever before in 2019. So those are my goals. That's not a decade goal. That's just a 2020 thing. In all seriousness, I will say this. I've been thinking about my health a lot. I do want to eat better. So I'm going to limit fast food to 2 times a day as opposed to 3 times a day. And I'm going to try to get a little bit of exercise. So hopefully more sex in 2020. Get the heart pumping a little bit, get the blood flowing. So those are my resolutions, gentlemen. Okay? Fair enough? I'm trying to be honest with you all. Those are actually my New Year's resolutions. You think that's fair?
I can see it happening. I can understand it.
Okay. You guys have nothing else to say.
I'm not. I wasn't. I was on my phone. I'm sorry.
My other New Year's resolution is to get co-hosts that are a little bit more talkative. All right, so here's what we're going to do.
No, I think those are doable for you.
All right, literally doable. All
They
right,
should be.
So here's what we're going to do. I wish you guys a happy New Year, and I hope it is healthy and prosperous. And I'm done with my cliches. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, a presidential candidate on the Democratic side is out of the race. We'll tell you exactly who that is. And the Pope smacking a woman? Can you believe it? It's the headline of the day. I'm not making it up, folks. We'll talk about that coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Hi, it's Matt Ray with America's First News, heard right here on 101.5 FM and 720 AM KDAWN. Start your day in the know. From Washington to Wall Street and covering the world, we've got you covered with the latest news, commentary, and analysis. Everything but the cup of coffee. America's First News, weekday mornings, 2 to 6 a.m. right here on 101.5 FM and 720 AM KDAWN, the talk of Las Vegas.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Thursday, and yes, it is 2020. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we'll be speaking with Joe Walsh. He is a Republican presidential candidate, certainly some people would consider him anyway a controversial figure. He's been on the show before. A lot to get to with him. I want to talk a little bit about the impeachment stuff, his thoughts on that, and will he be on the ballot in Nevada? I know that there are probably many people in Nevada that are trying to get him off the ballot. So we'll talk to him about that much more with Joe Walsh coming up here in just a few minutes. Not often we talk about the Pope. As you know, I'm not an extremely religious person. Not often that the Pope slaps a woman. Now, no, don't get the wrong idea. The Pope didn't slap a woman in the face, but here's exactly what happened. The Pope has apologized for a video that shows him losing his cool. He's in this line shaking hands, as he is really everywhere. You know, anytime anybody sees the Pope, he's, you know, everybody wants a picture with him or they want a handshake. They just want to touch him. You know, he's the Pope. Of course, why wouldn't they? So that's totally understandable, right? So there's a woman that I guess didn't get a chance to shake his hand, unidentified woman, who abruptly grabs the Pope from behind a barrier, yanking him towards her, just after he reached out moments before to greet a child during his visit to the Vatican. And it's a weird video, and we're going to post it on our Twitter page. So right as he's being grabbed, and by the way, make no mistake about it, this woman was completely out of line. You don't forcefully grab anybody, let alone the Pope, okay? So the Pope slaps her hand/arm several times, slapping it. Keep in mind, okay? This is the Pope. That's number one. But here's my question. Where the hell is security? How can security allow this woman to do this? This is the Pope we're talking about. That's the part of this that I don't understand. However, the Pope has released a statement, and he said he apologized for, quote, losing his cool. This goes to show you, folks, even men of God can lose their cool now and again. What do you guys make of this story? Have you seen the video? I've seen it. I actually laughed at it because I thought it was funny. And, you know, everybody looks up to, you know, whether it's the Pope. I don't care who it is. We're all human beings. We all lose our cool from time to time, you know, and this was just another situation of someone losing their cool, and it just happened to be Pope Francis. What do you guys make of this?
that he's basically he's a pope that's known as more progressive, known as someone who's not exactly, he's not old school.
He's a
Let's put
violent
it that
pope.
way.
He's clearly a violent pope.
So he's gonna take liberties at times, and so it doesn't surprise me that this took place. But yes, those are the questions that are posed to me, Brian. When I think about this scenario, as far as security, I don't know what the protocol is with respect to the Pope and security.
Can I just respond, though?
How could this happen?
Let me just say this. So this is what the Pope said. He said, so many times we lose patience, me too. He said, I say, excuse me for the bad example. He also said it's not what Jesus would have done. I couldn't disagree with you more, Pope. That's exactly what Jesus would have done. If somebody was pulling Jesus' arm, I bet you Jesus wouldn't be too happy about it either. So, Pope, don't be all righteous that Jesus is perfect. And if you pull his arm and you're rude, he's not going to smack you on the arm and say, hey, stop. No, I bet Jesus would. What if somebody pulled Jesus's beard? You think he just would have said no problem? No, he probably would have slapped the person. It's not like
I think one of the birds that was living in his beard would have came out and attacked the person that pulled it. To be honest with you, but what was the Pope supposed to do? Just get grabbed and pushed towards that woman? And I mean, what else can he do there?
We don't want to present like a doomsday scenario, right? But you don't know if that woman or man that's gonna pull on the Pope, it has an ulterior motive where they have a weapon on them or something, where they could actually do something really bad.
If you're crazy enough to pull on the Pope's arm, what are you trying to accomplish? Now,
I got to tell you something, man. I wish I was that lucky. I wish women would pull on me once in a while. I mean, I'm not as lucky as the Pope. I'm just not that fortunate. I've never had that happen to me before. Usually it's a guy who wants to kick my ass that's pulling on me, not a woman. But anyway, he is the Pope. He is a rock star. He is the man of God, and he lost his cool. But I actually give him a lot of credit in this instance. He apologized because he understands that a lot of people all across the world, actually, not just in some countries, look up to him.
It comes down to the fact that society expects celebrities and presidents and popes and people that are highly profiled across the world to be perfect. And when they make minor mistakes, despite the fact that there is good reasoning behind it, they still have to apologize for it. The Pope shouldn't have to apologize for this. He was getting pulled towards a stranger. A stranger, a younger stranger, younger, probably stronger than him stranger, and he reacted to it accordingly. Now, actually, this weekend, if you watch the Oregon-Wisconsin game, Barry Alvarez was getting pulled by his nephew while Wisconsin was driving the ball on offense, and and ESPN made a big deal out of this, but he actually slapped his grandson's hand away and said, "No, I got to watch this game." Kind of the same thing with the Pope.
All right. Well, one thing I like what the Pope did that the President of the United States will never do, that is something called apologizing. I know. Imagine that. Imagine a leader actually apologizing. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, speaking of the Orange Man, we're going to ask Joe Walsh, who is Republican presidential candidate, what he thinks of this impeachment inquiry, what's going on. Walsh, certainly a controversial character of his own. So he's going to be coming up next. So looking forward to that. We're going to be joined by him. And of course, we're going to talk a little bit more detail about this fatal crash coming up in hour number 2. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
The Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, says the U.S. believes Iran or its proxy forces may be planning more attacks against American interests in the Middle East. Esper told Fox News that if there is an attack or indication that an attack be imminent, the U.S. will take preemptive action to protect American lives.
We need to stand up to Iran, and we need them to behave like a normal country.
Another Democrat is dropping out of the presidential race.
The announcement from Julian Castro comes after he failed to garner enough support in the polls or donations to make recent Democratic debates. The former San Antonio mayor, who was the only Latino in the race, struggled to surpass around 1% in the polls.
Correspondent Clayton Neville. A Texas judge has sided with a hospital that plans to remove an 11-month-old girl from life support after her mother disagreed with doctors who say the infant is in pain and that her condition will never improve. Wall Street's doing well. The Dow up 192 points. NASDAQ up 63. I'm Evan Haining.
Our veteran. It's time to check the roads in the KDAWN Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by Lowe's. Police activity on the 95 northbound north of Eastern in the final clearing stage. There is still residual slowing from about Sahara or just past Boulder Highway on 95 northbound, but that should clear here before too long. Also, a hit-and-run accident investigation underway. Las Vegas Boulevard at the 215. Watch for slowing. Debris on the 215 westbound at Rainbow Boulevard to watch out for. Pros do it right by shopping at Lowe's to save on the supplies they need most from the brands they trust to get the job done. Do it right for less starts with Lowe's. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Our veterans risked it all to protect our freedom. One of the best ways to say thank you is to volunteer to support them. At a time in history where kindness is a virtue, volunteering means a lot. For over 47 years, Help Heal Veterans, a not-for-profit organization with the support of citizens like you, have delivered therapy kits to veterans who need them. To volunteer or learn more, visit healvets.org. That's healvets.org.
Hey, have you heard that ransomware attacks have increased by 500% this year?
Yeah, cybercriminals are targeting all types of businesses, encrypting their data and holding it hostage unless they pay up.
What if we're their next victim?
Don't worry, we have Barracuda to detect, prevent, and recover from ransomware and other advanced threats.
So we're secured?
Absolutely. We'll pay no ransom and keep this business up and running.
That's a relief.
Protect your business at Barracuda.com. Barracuda, your journey secured.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. First show of 2020. How exciting, everybody. Good to be back. And, of course, we got Chris Wynn in studio along with Mr. J.D. Sharp. I am Brian Shapiro. And the guy we have with us on the line right now, he's been on this show before, friend of the show, happy to say, a presidential candidate on the Republican side running against Donald Trump. That would be Joe Walsh. Joe, thank you so much for joining us again, sir. How are you?
Hey, I hope you guys had a good Christmas, New Year season. It's awesome to be with you both.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Joe. And we have, and I hope you did as well. We have a lot to get to with you. Why don't I start with this? A lot of people on the Democratic side are dropping from the race. Of course, I'm sure you heard the latest news. Julian Castro just made the announcement that he's dropped out. We had Kamala Harris about a month ago dropping out of the race. Do you see this trend kind of continuing here in the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think on the Democrat side, I think it's going to narrow down pretty quickly right after Iowa to the top 3 or 4 candidates. And I think they'll fight it out through the spring.
Mm-hmm. I tend to agree with you on that one. So let's talk about your campaign. First of all, how is your campaign going as of late since last time we spoke? I think we spoke about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And how many state ballots are you currently on?
You know what? This isn't easy. This is the toughest thing I've ever done. And one of the reasons it's so tough is, I mean, Donald Trump is a horrible human being. Donald Trump and state party, Republican Party bosses, latest count in 9 states, including Nevada, 9 states in this country have canceled primaries or caucuses. I mean, again, I say till I'm blue in my face, this isn't Russia. That shouldn't happen in America. Mm-hmm. We're trying to fight back legally against some of these, but that's tough. I mean, so in 9 states, we can't be on the ballot. We're trying to get on the ballot everywhere else, but the Republican Party bosses and Trump are making it real tough.
Why is it, you say something that I echo on this show every day. And when I talk about Donald Trump, I don't usually talk about policy. Sometimes I do.
Right.
But most of the time, I just talk about what you just said. Donald Trump is a horrible human being for so many different reasons. He goes after Gold Star families. He goes after POWs. What did you make of the Dingle comments he made a few weeks ago? Referencing the fact, Joe, as you heard, that this man, a World War II veteran, was in hell. What was your first reaction when you heard that? Is this just the norm now for us?
It was, and pardon me, guys, if I almost swore, if I scream. He's a horrible human being, period. I mean, look, you and I, the 3 of us may disagree on plenty of issues.
Sure.
This has got nothing to do with issues. I'm a limited government libertarian conservative.
Right.
We could have great issue discussions until the cows come home. But we have a guy in the White House who cannot tell the truth. We have a guy in the White House who cannot put the country's interests ahead of his own. That's why he was impeached. I mean, what did he do? He pressured the head of a foreign government to help him cheat in the 2020 election. he's a horrible human being. And again, I'm not a Democrat, but these Democrats have got to focus on that. I think this country is sick and tired of having an absolute ass in the White House.
Yeah, that's certainly one word to describe him. I would agree with that. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Joe Walsh, former congressman from Illinois, former radio host as well, and a presidential candidate. So when I talk, Joe, about people like Mitch McConnell, who seem to be working with the president, certainly with this Senate trial or supposed Senate trial, saying he's going to work with the White House. When you see people like Lindsey Graham, some people say that he has sold his soul to the devil. I think I heard Howard Stern say that a few days ago when he was interviewing Hillary Clinton. There are so many Republicans out there, Joe, that, in my personal opinion, that refuse to say anything negative about the man, and they put themselves in their job position before the country. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And the phrase "they've sold their soul," guys, is apt. Look, I know a lot of these guys. I worked with some of these guys. My former colleagues in the House, guys like Jim Jordan, I consider Jim Jordan a friend. He and I were good friends.
Wow.
I don't even recognize him now. I don't even recognize him. If I were in the House right now, guys, still, I would have voted to impeach Trump. And think about that. I'd be the only Republican who would have. The party is a cult. I've spoken to enough of these guys privately to know they don't like Trump. They think about Trump a lot of what you and I think about Trump, but they're scared to death to say it publicly, and they hope that he loses in 2020 and then the Republican Party can go back to what it was. I think they're smoking something. That ain't going to happen.
Do you think that Nancy Pelosi, do you think it's possible that she holds the articles of impeachment too long to ensure a fair trial in the Senate?
Yeah, I worry about it only because I think Pelosi has been brilliant. I think the Democrats, look, they didn't want impeachment. They did it because Trump impeached himself. So they've been very principled, I think, in this whole fight. But I think if she keeps holding the articles, it may look like she's playing politics. And I worry that may hurt the Democrats politically.
I want to ask, there's been some weird moments that have happened in the chambers over the last several weeks. I want to bring up one moment, and that would be Matt Gaetz. Now, here's a guy, look, we all make mistakes in life, right? But here's a guy who did have an alcohol problem, and, he got a DUI. And then in the House chambers, this isn't a private conversation he's having with his family or friends. Right. He's talking about Joe Biden's son having drug issues and addiction. Yeah. I think this guy has zero class. He does this all the time where he goes after people personally. What do you make of a guy like Matt Gaetz and some of his behaviors?
Well, he's an idiot. I'll start there. But then this is what makes me so sad, because Trump corrupts people and he corrodes people. And it's like so many of my former Republican colleagues are learning from Donald Trump. And so they're lying like Trump lies. Kevin McCarthy, like a couple weeks ago, he tweeted that the IG report proved that the Obama administration spied on Trump, an outright lie. But so many of these Republicans are emulating the behavior of Trump, as we all agree, a horrible human being. And it just makes them look so bad. Trump has really corroded the Republican Party. It's scary.
So, Joe, JD brought up, of course, impeachment and what the impact could mean on the 2020 election. I don't understand for the life of me, Joe, how some Republicans and some Trump supporters can come out and actually say, this entire process, how it's all been handled in some way could be beneficial to Donald Trump going into the 2020 election. How in any way possible could impeachment be anything that could be a positive with respect to Donald Trump as we get set for this 2020 cycle?
Well, two things, and that's what's interesting is the Republicans talk about the politics of impeachment. The Democrats have talked about what's right and wrong. Right. They've talked about the Constitution. So that's a big difference right there. But the politics be damned. The politics shouldn't matter. Mm-hmm. Will impeachment help Trump? Well, look, I think with his core group of supporters, maybe, But Donald Trump hasn't gotten any new votes in the last 2 or 3 years. And I got to tell you guys, here's what I find. As I'm out campaigning, and I'm in Iowa and New Hampshire a lot, most Republican voters on the ground, they disagree with me on impeachment. I think Trump should be impeached. Most Republican voters don't. But when I ask Republican voters, do you want another 4 years of the Donald Trump show? Do you want this crap and this chaos for 4 more years? I got to tell you guys, even most Republican voters go, man, this is exhausting. I don't want to go through 4 more years of this.
And I'm a Donald Trump supporter, and I'm the part of the show that supports Trump. And I agree with that. I love I really like Donald Trump's policies. I like what he does business-wise. I think he creates compromises, with foreign leaders on a consistent basis, which I can appreciate. But I totally agree. I don't want 5 more years or 4 years and 8 more months of him, especially just the consistent Twitter badgering. To me, that needs to stop.
You are, and my friends, you are spot on, because that's exactly what most Republicans tell me out there, which is why I wish I had Michael Bloomberg's money. I wish I were a gazillionaire.
Yeah, we all do.
Because I think Republican voters want an alternative. Look, I'm a conservative. You'll get conservative stuff with me. You're not going to get me, though, waking up every day going, look at me, look at me, look at me. And as long as Trump's in the White House, it's going to be all about Trump. And it ain't going to be about health care. It ain't going to be about infrastructure and issues that the American people care about.
He is Joe Walsh, former congressman from Illinois, joining us, presidential candidate for 2020. All right, Joe, speaking of Donald Trump for himself, not for the country, let's talk a little bit about Vladimir Putin. What did you make of this phone call that he had several days ago? And the Kremlin is the one that releases it first, that they had this call. And then we hear 24 hours later, the White House releases it. Talk a little bit about this weird relationship. I just can't understand it, Joe. This relationship between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. It seems to me there's a reason why Trump, for lack of a better term, wears the Putin knee pads, so to speak. What is going on with this relationship, and why is there little to no transparency in the White House? I can't even remember the last time they had a press conference.
Yeah. I think it's financial. I think Putin and Russian oligarchs have something over Trump's head financially, and I think ultimately we'll learn this. But here's the more important point. Donald Trump is the most disloyal president we've ever had. I've called him a traitor, broadly speaking. I mean, what else do you call somebody who, let's not forget, guys, in 2016, Trump encouraged Russia to interfere. And then in this past year, he stands on the White House lawn and tells China to interfere in our election, and then Ukraine. He pressures Ukraine to interfere in our election. What do you call a president who wants foreign governments to screw around with our elections? I don't care what anybody's politics are. That should piss every American off.
I agree. I want to ask you this, because you're on the campaign trail, you talk to a lot of people. So if somebody walks up to you, I would imagine this probably happens to you every day, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody will probably come up to you and say, well, here's why I support Donald Trump. Aren't you happy with the economy? Aren't you happy with the unemployment numbers? So, Joe, as somebody who's running for president, how do you respond to somebody like that, and what do you say?
I say I like some of the things the Trump administration has done. Don't forget, I voted for Trump in 2016.
Right.
I like some of the things. I like some of the judges. I like Gorsuch. I like some of the deregulation. I don't like a lot of the things he's done, like tariffs, and I think he screwed up the border. But here's the deal. Again, I go back to this. He is dividing this country like we've never seen. And I'm a conservative voter, but I don't want 4 more years of the Donald Trump show. I don't want the chaos. Nothing will get done as long as Trump's in the White House, because Trump wants to make it all about him. And I think when I get into that kind of a conversation with even Republican voters, generally they agree. Like Democrats are pissed as all hell against Trump, and I get it. Republicans are tired of him. There's a real exhaustion out there.
As of right now, who do you think stands the best chance to be the Democratic nominee in 2020?
I think Joe Biden. I'm not giving my opinion. I think the Democrat Party wants to beat Trump more than anything. So they'd rather, it's not a big deal to fall in love with a nominee this year. They just want to beat Trump. I see the Democrat Party coalescing around Joe Biden.
What are your thoughts on Pete Buttigieg? I actually believe that Buttigieg, I think his support's growing. I don't believe that him, being homosexual is going to hurt him, especially, becoming as a Democratic candidate. And I think that I think Trump would have a real issue with him in a debate situation. Are you a big fan of Pete Buttigieg?
No, I think Buttigieg is a really interesting candidate. I think he has a bright future. I worry because I don't know where he stands on issues. He seems to be a little too much of a perfect consultant's candidate and a little too poll tested. You know where Bernie stands on stuff. You know where Warren stands on stuff. But I agree with you. There's no way Trump would know how to debate somebody like Pete Buttigieg. Oh, my God, that would be classic to watch. But remember, Trump can't debate, period. I mean, if debates won elections, Hillary kicked his butt in all of those debates.
I got to ask you that, though, Joe.
I think any of the Democrat candidates would beat him in a debate.
Maybe this is a tough question for you to answer. Let's just assume for a moment that you are not in this presidential race, which you are, but let's assume. Yeah. And it's between, go back to 2016. It's between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. As a Republican, as a conservative, would you have changed your mind? And if it was all over again, would you vote for somebody like Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, and by the way, this has been one of the toughest things about what I've been doing running for president is because I've had to publicly apologize because I believe I helped create Trump. I was one of the most outspoken.
You were.
I mean it, guys. I was one of the most outspoken, angry Tea Party guys, and I think a lot of the rhetoric I used helped lead to a horrible human being like Trump. If I could go back, there's no way I would vote for Trump in 2016. Oh, man, it would have been hard to vote for Hillary. Maybe I would have voted. I got to be honest. I can't imagine, but maybe I would have, but I certainly would have voted for a third-party candidate.
And, Joe, look, I don't want to speak for you, but I kind of look at this, and I'm a Democrat and a never-Trumper, okay? And I look at people like yourself, like Steve Schmidt, right, who used to run, of course, John McCain's campaign, like Rick Wilson, others who are Republicans or are former Republicans that just absolutely want nothing to do with Donald Trump, and I understand that. But at the same time, you're Republicans, so you do have values in that area. You're conservatives. You are actual conservatives, right? You actually care about Republican issues, and you take that side of things. I find that fascinating that you're having to deal with this type of person in the White House who is, for all intents and purposes, has hijacked that party, and yet still, you do have an opportunity here where Republican values are getting put forth, whether it's conservative judges, whether it's, issues that are on your side of the aisle are getting taken care of in the name of Republicans. It just so happens that you have Donald Trump in the White House that is just a horrendous representation for that side of the aisle. Do you agree with me on that?
I agree with everything you said, and you said it brilliantly. I mean that. I'm a conservative because I'm afraid of big government. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, Donald Trump believes he's above the law. Donald Trump is everything I fear. It's more important than taxes or all of these policies. I don't want a dictator in the White House.
Right.
I fear a king. Yeah. And I've said this publicly, and it's gotten me in trouble with Republicans. Mm-hmm. I would rather have a socialist in the White House than a dictator. Mm-hmm. Well, right now, we have a dictator.
Speaking of dictator, let's have a little fun here, Joe. One of the people that I grew up loving to watch is Sacha Baron Cohen. Of course, the Ali G show, and he actually did a movie called The Dictator. And Bruno. The guy has so many funny movies, right? I mean, he's hilarious. So you were duped on his show, and before I get you to respond to this, I want to play you a little bit of audio. This was the show that aired on Showtime, and he wasn't the only one. I mean, there were so many. Dick Cheney, he had him sign a water board. I mean, there are so many crazy moments in this show that I think are Roy Moore. We'll get to that. Okay, so here's the audio we're going to play for you from the show, and then I want to get you to respond to it.
The intensive 3-week kindergarten course introduces specially selected children from 12 to 4 years old to pistols, rifles, semi-automatics, and a rudimentary knowledge of mortars. In less than a month, a first grader can become a first grenader.
Okay, so that's you. I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess Sacha Baron Cohen, who you didn't know it was him at the time, has you read this talking about first graders and guns. So first of all, how did he get this interview? How did you read that? And like, what was going through your mind when it was reading it?
And full disclosure, look, I got. He got me, and he got me good. By the way, Sacha was not part of it. He didn't interview me.
Okay.
I think I would have recognized him. They flew me out to Washington, D.C. They put me in a hotel. They fed me a great meal. They were going to give me an award because I'm such a big supporter of Israel's. This was for Israel's 70th anniversary. So I thought I was getting a big award as a good friend of Israel, and they had me read about all these wonderful things that Israel is doing. And within the 5 or 6 different things that Israel's doing, they had this one program where Israel is training 4, 5, and 6-year-olds how to use guns to defend against terrorists. And I got to admit, as I was reading from the teleprompter for about 30 minutes, I did kind of think in my head, well, this is kind of a funny thing. But I didn't realize it until the next night. I didn't sleep that night, and I thought, oh, my God, that's crazy. And then we found out a couple weeks later it was Sacha Baron Cohen. So look, all you can do is laugh and say he got you.
Okay, my favorite part of that show, Joe, and I am not a Roy Moore fan. I think he's done some horrible things in his life. There's a scene on that show where Sacha Baron Cohen, dressed up as like an Israeli army person, I guess you could call him. He says, I can't really get the accent, but he says, we developed this baton that can detect if you are a child molester because you can secrete enzymes. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing here. So he does the wand on himself and nothing alarms off. And then he does the wand on Roy Moore and it starts going crazy. And then he's like, oh, we have a malfunction. And then one of Sacha Baron Cohen's security guards comes over and he tests it and it doesn't go off. Yep. And then it goes off on Roy Moore again. And then he's like, did you borrow that jacket from somebody? Is that your jacket? And then Roy Moore looks at him and goes, let me tell you something. I've been married for blah, blah, blah years. I've only been with one woman. This interview is over. And then Sacha Baron Cohen in his act, no. I'm not saying you're a child molester. I never said that. I didn't accuse you of that. As he's walking away. I mean, I personally think Sacha Baron Cohen is a comedic genius. You know, I really think he is. I think the man is fantastic. And you know what?
I agree. I think he's very talented. And again, if it had been him, I think I would have recognized him, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He got me to say something really stupid, and all you can do is laugh.
It was fun. All right. I guess this will be my last question for you, Joe. And by the way, I guess I have 2 more questions. When are you going to be in Las Vegas? We'd love to have you in studio. When are you going to be campaigning here?
You actually will see me. I think sometime this month or early February, and I'll let you know.
Great. We appreciate that. All right. Last question for you. If you had a chance right now to sit across the table from Donald Trump, I want to know, what would Joe Walsh, as the presidential candidate, what would you say to him if you had that opportunity?
You know what I do? And what pisses me off about Trump more than anything is virtually every word out of his mouth is a lie. And so what I would do is I would put one of his lies in front of him, and I wouldn't ask another question or move on to another issue until that SOB acknowledged that what he said was a lie. We don't call him out on his lies. So I would spend my time just putting lie after lie after lie in front of him. Because again, I don't care what your politics are. Nobody should put up with a president who lies like this.
So, Joe, we're in Vegas here, and this is a betting town. So I was honestly, as I was listening to your response, I'm thinking to myself, I put it at -300 that you would have said to him if there was one word you could have said to the president, it would have been resign. But but you know, hey, that was just my thought process because you know, just given what's going on here, I mean, you've discussed it. We can sum up the Trump administration, can't we, Joe? Basically in 3 words. Or excuse me, in his 3 years, in one word, it's hypocrisy, isn't it, Joe? I mean, the hypocrisy is absolutely through the roof.
Well, and to leapfrog off of that point, he went there to drain the swamp. He is the swamp. He's the most corrupt president we've ever had. Think about that.
Yeah, and he looks like he's been living in a swamp too, by the way. Anyway, Joe, well, you know, one thing I always say about politicians in closing is that I always respect any politician that could admit that they made a mistake and they're wrong. And you clearly have done that, and you've been honest about it. You said a lot of good things about Donald Trump a few years ago. You voted for the man. But I respect you, and I appreciate the fact. And look, you're no stranger to saying controversial things yourself, but you've apologized for certain things you've said, and nobody is perfect, and you're willing to admit that you were wrong, and I do appreciate that about you, Joe. And let me say this: if it's not you, anybody that is the president in 2020, if it's not Donald Trump, I want someone in the White House that is a human being that could admit they make a mistake, that is willing to apologize, Joe. And I appreciate the fact that your candor and that you're able to do that. Thank you.
Hey, guys, the website is joewalsh.org, joewalsh.org for anybody who wants to go there. I love being on with you guys. It's a great show. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Joe. We look forward to seeing you in studio, my friend. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys.
All right. There you go. Former congressman from Illinois, Joe Walsh. Former radio host, too, by the way. He's got a radio background. And presidential candidate. Listen, people can say what they want about this guy. You know, he's said some controversial things in the past. He's said some racial things in the past. He's apologized for those things. All that a man can do when he makes a mistake, and obviously there are different levels of mistakes, right? But all you can do is say, listen, I wish I didn't say that. I'm sorry. And Joe Walsh has done that about the controversial. Have you ever heard Donald Trump say, gosh, I'm really sorry if I offended the McCain family. I'm really sorry. It didn't come out the right way. I apologize. I'm really sorry for going after Nancy Pelosi's looks and her teeth. I'm really sorry for doing that.
He comes from the school of thought where if he apologizes, it means that he did something wrong, and it shows weakness, and it creates a possible invalidation maybe for his self-confidence or his ability for his base or for whoever he's trying to speak to. And I don't know where he thinks like that, but at this point it's coming to him because Donald Trump has made, because he's not perfect. His name isn't Donald Poppins. It is Donald Trump. And he's made a lot of mistakes in his presidency. And if he just apologized maybe 1 every 10, I mean, it's to the point now where people are realizing, hey, this guy is either the biggest narcissist in the history of the United States of America, you know, or he just is incapable of accepting the fact that he is sometimes wrong.
I don't disagree with a lot of what you said. We're up against a break here, but I will say I don't think he came from the school of thought. I think a lot of people came from the school of the fake Donald Trump University, because I think he's no better than a fake used car salesman. I think he came from the school of a-hole. That's what I think he came from. I think he came from the school of spoon-fed and gold spoon-fed in your mouth since you were a child. But we got to take a break. We will continue this conversation, I'm sure. This presidential election is not going away. But when we come back, the fatal crash at Durango and Desert Inn, right down the road from this radio station. It is a tragedy. 3 people lost their lives, actually 4, including the driver. Well, guess what? Police have now identified that driver, and now a lot of people are talking about it on social media. I'll explain what that means coming up next. You are listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
This is Lorraine Hunt.
Tina Trenner is back, and she's on 720 AM, 101.5 FM, KDWN, every Sunday at 12 p.m. She's sick of the nonsense and has something to say every Sunday at 12 p.m.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera, News 3 live at 11.
This is Lorraine Hunt Bono, inviting you to tune in for Breaking Bread with Bono. Join my husband, Dennis Bono, as celebrities share with him their intimate and humorous stories. Saturdays, 5 to 6 p.m., right here on KDON.
This is Harry Jacobs from Credit Restoration of Nevada, inviting you to join me for The Credit Show, Saturday mornings between 9 and 10, here on the new 101.5 FM and 720 AM, KDON.
Kilmeade, Hannity, Levin, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN, Las Vegas.
Defense Secretary Mark Esper says if necessary, the U.S. will take preemptive action after indications that Iran or forces it backs may be planning more attacks on American interests. After a 2-day assault on the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad, correspondent Arwa Damon says the attackers have pulled back for now.
They have said that they are withdrawing for the time being, but they put the ball in the court of the Iraqi parliament, saying that they expect parliament within a week to begin having very serious negotiations and drafting a bill regarding the U.S. withdrawal. Otherwise, they say they have other moves that they can make.
Bill Taylor, who led the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine and was a key witness in the House impeachment inquiry, has left his post. In a farewell message posted online, Taylor stressed America's strong support for Ukraine and said he was optimistic about the country's future. Former Housing Secretary Julian Castro has ended his campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination.
In an online video, Castro said he's proud of everything he's accomplished.
I'm not done fighting. I'll keep working towards a nation where everyone counts, a nation where everyone can get a good job, good health care, and a decent place to live.
It's not clear what's next for the Texas Democrat. Clayton Neville, Dallas.
Deadly bushfires continue in Australia. The state of New South Wales has declared a state of emergency, and correspondent Anna Corin reports officials are considering more forced evacuations from areas where at least 8 people have died this week.
Thousands and thousands fleeing the areas worst hit by the deadly bushfires that have swept across the southeastern coast of Australia. A mandatory evacuation for tourists before catastrophic conditions return on Saturday.
The Dow is up 0.2% to 28,730. NASDAQ and S&P ahead as well. I'm Evan Haining.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by the Exergen Temporal Scanner Thermometer. No slowing I-15 southbound. Light slowing 15 northbound between Russell to just north of Tropicana. Looks like that's just volume. No accidents are confirmed. And on the 95 in the East Valley, delays are gone. Earlier, police activity on 95 northbound at Eastern was causing some slowing, but that's all cleared now. And so it's an easy drive on 95 northbound, no slowing. On the surface streets, watch for slowing for a traffic hazard. Gowan at Timberlake Drive. Is your family ready for cold and flu season? The flu brings a fever, so be prepared with a thermometer you can trust. The Exergen Temporal Scanner, backed by more than 80 clinical studies. Visit exergen.com. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This holiday season, get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off during their holiday sale.
John Schaefer here for my friends at Numel Medical. You know, I've been telling you about them for a while now, and here's why. Because they are the innovators. You know, anytime you have an original idea, an original concept, you have somebody that comes along and they see the success of that original concept, then they try and make it their own, and unfortunately, it's usually just a cheap imitation. Well, not with Numel Medical, because they are the ones who got out in front of this. Testosterone replacement, ED treatments, they're the ones who've been leading the way in the nation for sexual health procedures, and they've been providing tens of thousands of men in the Las Vegas area alone for the past 7 years with that help. Numel Medical starts with your first visit, and they are going to be there with you every step of the way. After I went there for my first visit, I felt comfortable and relaxed knowing they could help guide me through any issue I had. Numel.com, that's Numale.com, 702-505-4414. That's the number. Don't see a cheap imitation. Go to the originators. Numel.com, 702-505-4414.
Hey, I'm Reagan, and I am Westar Credit Union. You may not have heard of us, and that's okay. Our team has the same products and services you'd find at one of the bigger banks, and we're small enough to know you by name. At Westar, we're not about flashy football TV ads or big intimidating voiceovers. We're here for you. Wherever you are on your financial journey, Westar Credit Union is where you matter. Check us out at westar.org/join.
You know, Tempur-Pedic mattresses are the best on the planet. Hi, I'm Dave Mizrahi, owner of Best Mattress, your Tempur-Pedic Elite retailer. To be a Tempur-Pedic Elite retailer, you have to have the best selection, the highest customer satisfaction, and the most rigorous employee training. And buddy, we got them all. Experience what Elite is all about and get 72 months no-interest financing, free delivery, and a $300 gift with the purchase of any Tempur-Pedic mattress. Best Mattress. Sleep easy, friends. See store for details.
The new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, rolling out hour number 2, 2020. Our guest in studio, of course, is Chris Wynn. Across from J.D. Sharp, I am Mr. Brian Shapiro. Back at it, and a lot to get to. Coming up, by the way, we will be talking about the death of David Stern, former NBA commissioner. What did he leave the NBA? Where did he put the NBA? A lot of strong opinions about David Stern that I'd like to get to. Some good, some not so good. But obviously very sad to hear of his passing. UNLV basketball, we'll get to that hour number 3 as well. Very interesting story involving Mr. Gronkowski. We'll talk about that and what he did on national TV that got Steve Harvey very pissed off. But, we've been talking about this horrific car crash that took place in Las Vegas. Actually, it was last week. And it should hit home to all of us because it kind of says, life is so short, especially around the holidays. And you could be sitting at a red light and some idiot could decide to, drive recklessly and execute your family. That's exactly what took place. Now, yes, we don't know if this was a medical episode, so we're going to keep that open to a possibility. But here's what we do know. Police are saying, and by the way, this happened a week ago, that a man, 38-year-old, Takuma Wesley, they just released his name, was driving on Desert Inn Road, hit the barrier, the median there, and struck a car with a family of 5. That car went into the intersection of Desert Inn and Durango, killing 3 people in that car, including a 4-year-old girl, as both those cars burst into flames. A daughter, a mother, and a grandmother dead. 2 kids that were in that car were taken out and dragged out by Good Samaritans, who I would like to call heroes. I would love to know who these people are. They took a 17-year-old out of the car and a 10-year-old. Last I checked, that 10-year-old is still in a coma. Burns all over her body. The 17-year-old burns all over his body. And what we've heard, and we haven't confirmed this through any doctors or the hospital, but what some family friends have said is that the 17-year-old may be paralyzed the rest of his life. Several generations wiped out because of one man's actions. Now, like I said, we don't know if this was a medical episode. The only thing where you can say is, well, we have to have compassion for this man who caused the crash too. The only way you could say that is if he had a seizure or a heart attack, some type of, but everything leads me to believe that that's not the case. As I look at this man and I look at just what he looked like, and again, it's not 100%. This is a guy that was in good shape. He's young. We're not talking about an 85 or 90-year-old, and the first thing that enters your mind when somebody like that causes a crash is, was it a medical episode? Was it a heart attack? Did he die at the wheel, or she? I'm not thinking that. So most likely, this was one of those situations where the guy could have been drunk, he could have been on drugs, or he's just driving like a complete moron, and he wipes these people out. So I understand why people are upset. I understand why people are angry. But I want to read to you what this man, and again, they released his name, 38-year-old Takuma Wesley. So on his social media page, which I checked out when they released his name, a lot of pictures of him, a lot of posts. You could make the argument that there are some pictures where he's showing gang signs in some of these pictures. I'm not saying he was a gang member, but there are some weird pictures of him on his page. But here's what I want to say. His sister goes on social media, on Facebook, on his page, and here's what she says. Her name is Moya Dunlap. Apparently, this is his sister, I believe. Mm-hmm. She says, on this day, December 27, 2019, instead of wishing my little brother, Takuma Wesley, happy birthday, I am confronted with his passing. Let me start out by saying this. His sister did not commit any crimes. His family did not do anything wrong. They should not be chastised. They are hurting because they lost somebody in their family. Trust me, I totally understand that. But here's where I think she made a mistake. And I do believe it was a mistake. I don't believe it was malicious. If you are going to say something publicly, this isn't a private message, this is public on his Facebook page, in my personal opinion, she should have also said something about the people who lost their lives other than her brother. Keep in mind, her brother is the one that caused this crash, whether it was alcohol or reckless driving. And by the way, police are saying there was excessive speed. Regardless, she should have said her heart also bleeds for that family who lost 3 loved ones and 2 kids in serious condition. She didn't say any of that. So that's where I have a little bit of a problem. Now, am I going to go after her? Am I going to go on social media and go after? Absolutely not. She's hurting. She's in pain. Am I going to go after her brother when we don't have all the information of what caused the crash? No. But I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to say this right now. If there was alcohol involved or drugs involved, or if they're saying he didn't have a medical episode, he was just driving like an idiot, you're damn right I'm going to go after him, and I'm going to blast him more than you can believe. But with that said, there are some people taking shape on social media that are saying some pretty harsh things about this guy. I want to start by reading what somebody wrote on Facebook. Apparently, this is a friend to the family who lost 3 loved ones. She said her name is Maya Vamos. She says, and I'm going to try to, because there are some swears in some of these messages, so I'm going to try to read it slowly so I don't do something that the FCC doesn't like. She says, my brother's whole world has come crashing down because of him. What she means by him is the guy who caused the crash. My brother lost his mom, sister, and niece, while his brother and another niece sit in the hospital alive only because of a caring individual that pulled them from the fiery wreck your brother caused. You could call me B-word. I think you could say that on the air, but I won't say it anyway. But your brother does not effing deserve to rest in peace. May he eternally pay for what he did. Now, listen, I understand that I can't imagine how hard this is for what this woman is going through, and she reacted, and she's angry to that passage. Now, some of these messages get worse than that. I don't really have too much of a problem with what she just said there, to be honest with you. We have some people, a guy named Ken on social media says the guy is a piece of you-know-what, F him. I'm sorry, but F that. He took 3 innocent lives in the rain, driving like a Looney Tune. What about sympathy for the family that is devastated? I agree with that statement. I feel for you, but not for him. He paid the ultimate price for driving like an effing loser and killing 3 innocent people, including a kid. Here's someone else named Anastasia, who, and these are, for the most part, these are people that live in Las Vegas. Some of these people did not know this family, but they take it personal, just as we all should. Someone else said, he effing killed 3 generations, including a 4-year-old child. He deserved to die. He caused a whole family heartache of planning 3 funerals at once. Their bodies were effing burnt so bad the coroner said they were unrecognizable. They had to match fingerprints and medical records. He does not deserve to rest in peace. Rot in hell. I'll read a few more. I mean, I can go on and on. There are hundreds of messages.
I'd like to hear 12 more.
Well, I'm not gonna read 12 more. I mean, I guess I'll read.
But you're making the point, though,
Yeah.
Brian. And the
Yeah.
point is this, right? The debate over social media and reaction. Now, there's a big difference, right, between family members who have been directly affected in this tragedy and then those of us that are weighing in that don't know any of the family members and that are just viewing this from our own perspective and will weigh in on social media, right?
Yeah.
There's a difference in that. But like you, I take a look at it and say, hey, we got to take a step back. We got to wait until all the facts come out, until we know exactly what the circumstances are surrounding this. And you kind of pointed it out, Brian. But at the same time, then there's people out there that they are not taking into consideration the facts. They are just going off their initial reaction and their visceral reaction because of the horrific tragedy that's taken place, because that 3 generations have lost lives in one family.
Well, let me
and
ask.
people are letting that overtake
I'll tell you this.
their
I looked
sense
at-
of sanity when it comes to the reaction of this.
And I think a lot has to do with the fact that if you do look at his social media, and I looked at it too, he's got pictures with his shirt off. He's got pictures with cars, pictures with money, talking about how he's self-made. He's got, he's got this very, very sociopathic almost persona that you kind of look at when you look at his page. And am I shocked that this guy took a car going 110 or 90 to 110 miles an hour? He actually hit the median, and he was heading uphill. He wasn't heading down. He was heading uphill. He was driving fast enough that he was heading uphill. He hit the center median and then slammed right into the car in front of him. And the car that these people were in, it was 2017 Jeep Journey. I mean, it wasn't a small sedan. I mean,
I can't imagine.
And he was in a Mazda 6. So to me, I mean, I drive a 2012 Cadillac Escalade, and it's a powerful car,
Right.
or a powerful vehicle. I think that even if I was hit by a car going that fast, the same thing would have happened to me. So it's really troubling because again, they were not in an inexpensive, not well built vehicle. They were in a very, very nice car. Then I'm surprised that much damage was incurred because of that.
I mean, I can't imagine, the impact. I can't even imagine how tough that must have been to see and watch for people that were there. But here's the question I pose to the listeners right now, and we'll take some phone calls at 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of this conversation, 257-5396. So here's the question that I pose to people. do you think it is fair to go on social media or even to say on this show or anywhere to your friends at a bar, whatever, do you think it's fair to say that you hope that this guy rots in hell? The guy who caused this crash, not necessarily knowing if there was a health issue. I mean, I guess it's possible for a 38-year-old to have a heart attack, especially someone
or
that,
a seizure that
right.
incapacitates him, and so he ended up not having control of his vehicle. And
I think that would be much more likely if there wasn't rain on the ground, if the ground wasn't wet and slick like it was.
Well, we don't. That's one of those things we don't know. Certainly, if it's rainy and the ground is wet, that certainly doesn't help the situation any. But again, the question I pose to people is: here's a man that police are claiming was driving recklessly, and the toxicology report is not out yet, that took the lives of 3 innocent people, basically wiped out an entire family. Let's just call it what it is. You have a 17-year-old and a 10-year-old in the hospital. The 10-year-old, my understanding, is still in a coma. 17-year-old is, from what some people have said, could be paralyzed the rest of his life. Do you think it is fair to go after a guy and to say that you hope he rots in hell? And I mean, there are some other
drop some very bad names on him.
He's
as well,
an African American, and
can't say on the air.
That should never happen under any circumstance because his race has absolutely nothing to do with this. But there are people calling him the N-word. I wouldn't support that for the worst human being possible because his race should have nothing to do with that. So certainly, I do not agree with that. But and I also will pose this question to people calling in because this is important, and I want to hear from you about this. So Vegas has been known in certain polls for having some of the worst drivers in the country. Now, I don't know if I agree with that, but I would like to hear some of your stories, some of your nightmare stories of people on the road. I want to hear from you in regards to that as well. Do you think, so 2 questions really. Do you think that it is fair for people to tell this guy to rot in hell? That is my first question. Maybe without knowing all the facts in the case, maybe you think it's okay. I want to hear from you.
It's not maybe, though, Brian. There's no debate.
Well,
the facts aren't out yet.
I understand that, but I want to hear from people out there, and I want to know.
It's an important point to make.
I understand that. So that's my first question. And then my second question is, have you had any experiences where you've been in a car crash on the road or you've seen another very, very serious car accident in Las Vegas? I want to hear from you guys out there, your stories out there. And, of course, we're talking about this horrific crash that took place a week ago, right down the street from this radio station. So here's that number to call again if you want to be a part of this conversation. 702-257-5396. Once again, that number to call is 702-257-5396. We certainly want to hear from you, your thoughts on this crash, this guy who caused this crash, social media, people making assumptions. What are your thoughts on that? 257-5396. Why don't we start off with Kevin? Kevin, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. What do you make of all this?
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
Hey, guys, I appreciate you guys kind of holding back until you guys get whatever the report is, whether a heart attack, reckless driving. I think that, I guess my opinion is really that I understand that everybody's upset, the family's upset. Let's not lose focus of, that the families were lost and losing our crew. A lot of these people that are driving out here in Vegas, rainy days, I'm a truck driver out here, and these guys, most of these people are in no moral position to judge someone because you guys are just as insane as this guy that lost the car. They lost control of the car. We all need to reflect that, you're not invincible and that you can end up just like this guy. Today it's him, tomorrow it could be you. But that being aside, I understand everybody's emotional and hurt.
Yeah.
Telling someone that they rot in hell, you need to be careful with that.
I agree, Kevin, but tell me if you disagree with this or not, though. And again, we don't know. If it turns out that this guy did not have a medical episode, I have no problem with anybody saying he could rot in hell.
Exactly.
If it turns out that he was drunk or on drugs or he was just driving like an idiot and there was no medical episode, I have zero sympathy for this guy. Are you okay with that, Kevin?
I don't have any sympathy for him, but you have to understand he's gone. Whatever his judgment is, it's not our place to even comment on. Just be careful of what you wish for, because like I said, passing judgment, you're in no moral position to do that. We all have driven stupidly.
I've never.
In that case, Kevin, I've been in Vegas for 2.5 years. I've probably never taken my car over 75, maybe 80 miles an hour, maybe once or twice on the interstate.
Yeah.
But I mean, you say that it could happen to anybody. Not if we find out this guy was going 100 miles an hour, 110 miles an hour, I totally disagree with that.
I think Kevin Kevin, I think you make a valid point, though. I think you're making a valid point, and the point is this: is that look, it's not as if this driver, and look, the driver's dead and gone now, so we'll never know what his frame of mind is. It's not people's intent, right? When you're on the roads, even if you are impaired or if whatever, It's never their intent. He wasn't looking to go out and murder people, right? You're not out there looking to kill people. You're not out there looking to get into an accident, right, on the roads.
Yeah.
I think that's the point he's trying to make.
Yeah, and Kevin, listen.
And I think that's a very valid point.
Kevin,
I
appreciate the phone call. I think I understand what you were saying. But where I'm going to pull back on his comment, and by the way, the number to call 257-5396. Here's where I'm going to pull back. Listen, murderers, rapists. There are horrific people in the world, and I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I hope you rot in hell, especially the family that lost loved ones.
But Brian, I don't necessarily think he is in the same boat, this person, if it is found out that he was impaired. You think that's the same frame of mind as a murderer or a rapist?
Let me respond to that.
Someone who basically commits vehicular homicide.
Let me respond to that. Let me tell you something, my friend. Let me tell you something. If you decide to get drunk, and again, we don't know that about him, but if it turns out that he was drunk or on drugs, the answer is yes.
They're in the same boat.
To me, when you get into a car impaired, that's a decision that you decide to make. Now, you might call it involuntary, right? It's not premeditated murder.
Well, it's not. We might call it. That's what the law is.
But
Brian.
I'm giving you my opinion.
Major difference.
But I understand
between vehicular homicide.
I understand that,
and a serial rapist.
I understand that, but I'm giving you my opinion. Okay, to me, if you get into a car drunk, I believe the punishment should be much harsher. If you hurt somebody, or let alone, God forbid, kill somebody, and you're drunk and you're impaired and you get into a car, I have no problem saying about a person, I hope they rot in hell if they execute a family and take out a family. We don't know if this guy did that. The number to call is 702-257-5396. Also want to get your stories on the roadways. I mean, I'm sure some people have some hellish stories they want to talk about. And what are your thoughts on this guy? Do you think it's fair for people to say he should rot in hell without maybe knowing all the information? Again, that number 257-5396. Let's go to Jake. Jake, you are next up on the Vegas Take. Thanks for calling in. What do you make of all this?
Well, you know, if he was impaired in any way, of course, I would say he should rot in hell. I have no problem with that. You know, as an example, the police had to kill somebody this morning on Craig Road because he carjacked somebody. And when I heard that he was shot and killed, my response was good.
Yeah.
We don't need those kind of people here. And, you know, this guy, if he did not have some sort of a medical incident, then best case scenario, he was at the very best, he was negligent. And that's I think another problem though is social media is too powerful because a lot of people have a lot to say when they're not standing face to face. And it's like a snowball effect, whether he did or did not, was he impaired, yes or no? The point is that's the problem with our society today is there's so much social media. Like I was telling my wife, I don't know that the world is so much more violent than it used to be. It's just there's so much more.
It's just more in your face. Everything that happens is more in your face. And I got to agree with you there. Like the guy you talk about, the carjacker who was shot. I mean, he assumed the risk. This guy assumed if he's driving 110 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour in a Mazda 6 and endangering other lives when it's wet outside, he's assuming
Let me pull back on something.
He's assuming the risk at that point.
Okay, but hold on, Jake and JD. Let me pull back on something here real quick. If you are attempting to shoplift or steal from somebody, in this case, a car. Now, listen, I don't have all the specifics on this. If this guy has a weapon and he doesn't comply with police officers, then I agree with you. I have no problem with them taking him out. However, if you are just, and by the way, I don't think police just shot the guy and he was, I'm sure he probably was armed.
Exactly.
But if somebody is just carjacking you and doesn't have a weapon, or maybe even does have a weapon, and carjacks you, but then when police tell him to put his hands up and he drops a weapon, no, I don't think he should be executed.
Well, I'm not saying he should have been executed. What I'm saying is, if I'm from LA and we would see these car chases, they're so common. They air them on the news. And you'll see somebody who will cause 5 or 6 different accidents, and then when it's all over, all he has to do is stand up. He lays on the ground, puts his hands behind his back, and the police walk up to him like they're picking up a child, and that's the problem is the punishments are not strong enough. There was a guy, it's been quite some time ago, in Thailand that decided to he vandalized some people's cars, and he was American.
Yeah.
And in Thailand, they don't play that, man. They say,
No, I hear
he's
you.
going to be caned.
You're right, Jake.
And,
No, listen,
and all the
I understand.
Americans were like, oh,
Yep.
they're shooting cane him. I was like, hell yeah, cane him.
Yeah.
Cane him good, you know?
Jake, listen, and by the way, we just received some information from Tate there in the studio that after there was some sort of chase that led to this, and this guy rammed his car into a police car. Let me be very clear on this. Let me be very clear for people out there. And by the way, the number to call, 257-5396. If you are dumb enough to ram your car into a police officer's car on purpose, or by the way, any car for that matter, you deserve what is coming to you. I have no sympathy for him. If that's what police are saying, I am sure that is exactly what happened. Jake, I really do appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much for calling in.
Good call, Jake.
And again, that number, 257-5396. I mean, yeah, that certainly clears that up right now. If you are going to ram your car into a police vehicle, police usually don't like it when you do stuff like that. They usually don't. They usually take offense when you do something like that. Yeah,
that's not a good day for Metro when they get their cars just drilled.
No,
you know?
But listen, I've said this all week. And, I'll say it again. My family was involved in a very serious car accident when I was 12 years old. I lost my grandmother. Both my parents were in comas at the hands of some driver who took us off the road that was driving recklessly. So while I certainly didn't have to go through, and I'm not trying to compare or contrast what took place last week.
Well, you can legitimately make the comparison, though, Brian.
I don't really want to.
You, from an emotional standpoint, have been in that position. So you can. There's a lot of people out there, though, on social media, though, that take liberties that have been nowhere near that type of situation.
All I can say is this.
Unload their feelings towards this driver.
This father who lost his wife, his mother-in-law, his daughter. You've got 2 kids that are in the hospital right now.
It's a horrific situation. It is absolutely tragic.
I cannot imagine what the family and friends are going through right now. I can't imagine.
No.
I can't imagine. And my heart goes out to them. I am certainly not going to criticize any members of that family for going after this guy. I understand. And by the way, I'm not.
Well, you don't want to litigate, right? What people like that are saying, because look, you don't want to get in their heads. They have their own grief to deal with. That is just awful. So you don't want to tell them what to say or how to say it.
And by the way, it is important to note we have reached out to that family, some of those family members. Obviously, they're grieving. They want their privacy, and we totally respect that and understand that. We also reached out to the family attorney. And listen, that's a part of this as well. I mean, sadly, money's never going to bring anybody back. It's not going to ease any pain. But for that, when you have a 17-year-old that could be paralyzed and you have a 10-year-old that's in a coma, I would imagine some of their medical bills aren't going to be automatically paid for. There is a GoFundMe page up there. We put that up on our Twitter page. Please help this family. Please go on there and donate what you can. I think they're up to around $40,000 right now, if I'm not mistaken. Please do whatever you can to help this family because, boy, this is just a tragedy. It hits home to everybody in this town. And by the way, quickly, before we go to break, I saw 2 more accidents on that intersection in the last 48 hours. 2 more accidents. Why? For God's sakes, people, slow down on the roadways. Be a defensive driver because you damn well better be, especially in this town. And be careful on the roadways. You're not the only person out there. If you want to drive like an idiot and hurt yourself, that's your business. But that's the problem. You're playing Russian roulette with society when you do that, okay? All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're going to be back right after this. You're not going to believe what 2 police officers did in regards to the homeless. We'll talk about that coming up next. You are listening to The Vegas Take, and we'll be back.
Each weekday morning beginning at 5, join award-winning news anchor John Schaefer for the KDAWN Morning News. Every 30 minutes, John will update you on the day's top local, national, and international news. Plus breaking news as it happens. The KDAWN Morning News, weekdays 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Only on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDAWN, the talk of Las Vegas.
Well, look who's home. How was your day, hon?
Stressful, exhausting.
Lie down on me and we'll talk about it.
Oh, Purple Mattress, you know how to support me.
Hey, I'm just a mattress doing my job.
You're more than that. You're a Purple Mattress. Who cares about a bed with numbers when I have your Purple Grid to comfort my body's pressure points? And forget memory foam. Your non-toxic, hyper-elastic polymer minimizes heat, keeping me cool and comfortable the whole night through.
If you're happy, I'm happy. But you do have up to 100 days to return me for a full refund.
And give up the best night's sleep I've had since I learned to walk? No way. You're the only one I want to come home to, Purple Mattress.
You too can come home to a Purple mattress by texting NAP to 84888. Take advantage of our Purple's Bundle Up for the holiday sale and get a free premium gift bundle when you buy a mattress by texting NAP to 84888. That's keyword NAP to 84888.
See purple.com for terms and conditions.
Arwa Damon reports the calm follows the destruction of 2 days of violent protests.
Things have gone back to normal in the sense that the Iraqi security forces are again manning the checkpoints leading to the U.S. embassy, and in front of the embassy itself you have a fairly lengthy cleanup effort.
Defense Secretary Mark Esper says there are indications that Iranian-backed forces are planning more attacks on U.S. interests.
Do I think they may do something? Yes, and they will likely regret it.
Former San Antonio Mayor and HUD Secretary Julian Castro has ended his campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination. A conservative law firm wants the Wisconsin Elections Commission to be found in contempt and fined $2,000 a day until it purges more than 200,000 voters from the rolls, a move Democrats are fighting in the battleground state. The Dow is up 176 points. I'm Evan Haining.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by Sam and Ash. The intersection of Craig Road at Allen Lane still closed for an ongoing police investigation. Take an alternate route like Lone Mountain or Cheyenne or Alexandria to get around the closure. Road work is slowing folks up on Decatur at the I-215, the Southern Beltway, and road work also with lane restrictions on Sunset both directions at Decatur Boulevard, and a crash reported on Spring Mountain just west of I-15. Hurt in an accident, you deserve full compensation, and most importantly, you deserve what's right. You need Sam and Ash. Visit them now at samandash.com. That's samandash.com. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Staples has the organizational supplies you need for the new year, like planners, folders, calendars, and more. There's a whole lot in store at Staples.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
Travis Scribner, managing partner of Westpac Wealth Partners, interviews some of the most successful business owners for insight into what makes both them and their business run. Tune in every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDON, or podcasts on iTunes. 5 minutes of your time can change a teacher's life. The Smith Center and the Rogers Foundation ask you to nominate outstanding teachers for the Heart of Education Awards. Nominations run now through January 17th at theheartofeducation.org. 20 winners will each receive $5,000.
My name is Dale Pazinski, and this is how I live united. I volunteer with United Way, helping the homeless in my community by teaching computer skills and helping them build a basic resume to save on their very own USB drive. It's huge when somebody says, "Hey man, that job that you helped me apply for, I got it." My name is Dale Pazinski. I help people achieve financial independence. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. You know, I had to listen to all that 80s music at New Year's Eve. I still enjoy it. It makes me feel a little old, but I like that 80s rock.
I saw a good special on TV yesterday. It was Foreigner. It was an old Foreigner. All
wow.
the former members back from the 80s.
Can you do a little Foreigner for us right now?
I want to know what love is.
Okay, that's just
bad,
awful.
Dude,
yeah, that was terrible.
I'm not in tune.
That'll never happen again.
Yes.
Anyway, welcome back to the show. It is Sharp and Shapiro. That is the voice of Chris Wynn joining us as a guest. We were talking about, of course, the horrific car crash that took place last week, and now the release of the individual who caused that crash. There is a story that was out, and this is so troubling. It's just unbelievable. And I'm not trying to make Las Vegas to be this horrible place, but yes, there are some bad people out there, as there would be in any community. Well, there is a video that was released of a man kidnapping his girlfriend as this was New Year's Eve, screaming and yelling for help. She knocks on a door of a neighbor or somebody in the neighborhood trying to ask for help. You know, because if somebody's chasing you around and you're in fear of your life, what are you going to do? If you don't have time to call 911, I would have probably done the same thing, right? I would knock on a door, help, help, help. So there's a video that we're going to be posting on our Twitter page where you can see she knocks on a door. The only reason why we have the video of this is because she knocked on the door and this household had a camera in front of their house, right? So in this video, she goes to this door. She's saying, Darnell, no, Darnell. Darnell is her boyfriend. Darnell is following her. He is the one that has kidnapped her. And in this video, boy, it is tough to watch, but he physically assaults her, kicking her in her stomach, in her midsection. When she is on the ground, she's crying, she's screaming in pain. It is horrific to watch. So police, who did a great job, thank God, by the way, for that house having a camera. Otherwise, this stuff probably sadly happens every day, and these bastards who do this never go to jail because there's no physical evidence, right? Well, guess what? They caught this bastard. That's right, they got him. His name is 23-year-old Darnell Rogers. And you know what helped besides the video? The fact that she said his name. Not only did this camera have video, but there was audio. Okay? Now, this was New Year's Eve too, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable. Not that any other day would make it any worse or better, but it just goes to show you how video surveillance, this is why officers need to have video cameras. Now, listen, I understand this costs money, right? But if you have enough money to own a home, a decent home, there's no excuse why you shouldn't have enough money to have cameras. And for these apartment complexes in town and all these places that make millions and millions of dollars, why don't you put some security cameras around at every apartment complex so we can catch these bastards that might enter your home, home invasions, any type of assault. I mean, I don't care if it's from Bridget, not to make light of this, but if it's Bridget the midget assaulting her boyfriend, or if it's a situation like this, I don't care who it is. We need video surveillance, and for this type of situation, great job by Metro Police. I give them kudos. I don't always do that, but in this situation, great job in catching this bastard. So let me ask you guys a question. So they call this kidnapping. Now, there might be some people that say, well, wait a second, this was his girlfriend. It's not kidnapping, but the rules state, yes, it is. If you're holding somebody against their will, and in this case, he's assaulting her, it is kidnapping. If you put your hands on a woman and it is not self-defense, to me, give him 20 years in prison. I don't have a problem with that. What do you got? If there's overwhelming evidence, and there is overwhelming evidence because there's video surveillance here that shows this man assaulting his wife, his girlfriend. And by the way, we have posted that video on Twitter if you want to check it out. What do you guys make of this?
Yeah, I think that he'll probably get 10 years. They're going to throw the book at him, but only a few things are going to stick. I'm comfortable with giving this guy 10 years for what he did. And you're right. It's very, very smart of that woman to say, Darnell, because that's probably I would say that's probably 60% of what helped take this guy down.
It's interesting, Brian and JD, you bring up the surveillance, right? It's ironic, isn't it, that it seems Las Vegas is like the most surveilled city in America, possibly the world, given, all the video footage. So, yes, it is absolutely, we are extremely fortunate that there was some video available as well as audio in this episode. But I would agree with you. Look, as far as in the number of charges that you can throw at him, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a legal expert. But, absolutely, kidnapping could be a part of it. We saw that with the O.J. Simpson case where, this was an issue with memorabilia and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that they were in a room where they were confined into a room and they didn't have an opportunity to leave, that was an aspect of kidnapping. So that could possibly come into play here as well.
It could be kidnapping, false imprisonment, battery, assault. Maybe she's pregnant. That could come into play too. I mean, you never really know what the details are, but he's definitely going to spend, I would say, about a decade of his life behind bars.
So Brian, you mentioned, of course, police officers and having cameras on them. Well, we had a story that you talked about in the top of the last segment with two police officers in Mobile, Alabama. These officers are Preston McGraw and Alexandre Olivier, very young officers, recent graduates of the police academy in February of 2018 and January of 2019. Well, these two officers have caused outrage online over an image of them appearing to ridicule homeless people that went viral over the holiday. The post shows the two officers holding up a so-called quilt of cardboard signs apparently confiscated from homeless people in the city. That accompanying text says, "Want to wish everybody in the 4th Precinct a Merry Christmas, especially our captain. Hope you enjoy our homeless quilt. Sincerely, Panhandler Patrol." Now, this has been looked at as an absolutely extremely insensitive, considering it is the holiday season. And Mobile's chief of police, Brian and JD, Lawrence Bastet, who has long been an advocate for homeless people in Mobile, offered apologies on behalf of his department for the post And just a short quote from him. He says, as a police department entrusted with serving and protecting our community, we offer our sincerest apology for the insensitive gesture of a Facebook post by 2 of our officers where they're holding up a homeless quilt made of pantyhose.
So let me, thank you for giving us that backstory on that. And listen, we know that there are a lot of panhandlers in Las Vegas. Throughout the country, the homeless issue is a big problem, not just in Las Vegas, but everywhere. Okay, the fact that these police officers, first of all, confiscated these signs, and these are the type of signs that say homeless, anything helps, 25 cents, whatever the case may
vet,
be. Right, exactly.
The
fact that they confiscated these and then they actually took the time out of their day to make a homeless, what would you even call it? A homeless sign quilt out of it.
Yeah.
And they were dumb enough and they showed the lack of judgment and intelligence to actually take a picture. Now, okay, it would be bad enough if they did it in private and we wouldn't be talking about it, but publicly taking a picture and posting it to social media. So here's my opinion on this. And by the way,
it happened in Alabama, too.
Well, yeah, what a shocker there, where they try to pass laws where, if a woman gets raped, God forbid, she has to have a baby. So what a shocker, those dumbbells in Alabama. But I'm not saying everyone in Alabama is dumb, but I'm saying there are a lot of them that are. I'm sorry.
Bulbs in the tree.
I'm sorry.
Well, what you're saying is that if you live in Alabama, there's a
higher chance of you being stupid.
Probably a much higher chance that your IQ is less than 80.
Like these 2 officers who were stupid.
Yes, like these 2 officers. So here's how I feel about this. When it came down to Ferguson, and the reason why I'm bringing up Ferguson, it's important because I defended that officer. And I don't always defend officers. If they're wrong, throw the book at them, man. But that hands up, don't shoot narrative, that officer will never be the same for the rest of his life. He did absolutely nothing wrong at his job. He should be commended. And Michael Brown was painted out to be some sort of hero where he was nothing more than a thug. And the reason why I bring that up is because there are situations where officers do not deserve to be treated the way they are treated. They have a tough job. But this is a specific situation where I personally believe, and some people might think this is too harsh, tough. I don't think those 2 officers getting suspended is enough. In my personal opinion, they should never be allowed to be a police officer ever again. Because it not only, what do you need when you're a police officer? Judgment. You need to be great when it comes to making judgment calls. You have life or death situations with many of these police officers. They have split-second decisions. You're telling me you want somebody out there on the streets making life or death decisions at the taxpayers' money, okay? 2 guys that decide to mock homeless people. They weren't even sitting, and by the way, it'd be bad enough they were sitting at a bar drunk or something. They weren't talking amongst friends. They weren't just having a private conversation. They weren't even in a private...
they were in uniform.
They were in uniform.
Yes.
They took time out of their day to take these homeless signs and make a joke of people that don't have enough financial money. They don't have enough money to even live in a house. They're homeless. They're in a horrible place. And you decided to take time out of your day to do this. What the hell else have these police officers done? It didn't start here. If these guys have that bad a judgment that they would do something stupid like this, let me ask you guys this. What do you think should happen to these police officers? Police officers need to be held to a higher standard, just like our politicians, just like our president. They have a lot of power. And while I think the majority of police officers are heroes and they do a fantastic job protecting and serving, you've got bad apples like these idiots. Do I think they deserve to go to jail? No. But I think they should never be allowed
I don't know
to
about
be
that.
No,
I would push back
sorry,
on that a little
I don't
bit.
think they
you
should.
don't think should be police officers ever again?
Nope.
One guy just graduated in December of 2018. The other guy, January of 2019.
I don't care.
So
obviously, they're very young guys.
These are millennial police officers, Brian.
Look, I'm not condoning what they did, Brian and JD, in any stretch. But at the same time, not being a police officer, you don't think they should be police officers ever again?
These are the poster
Find another
childs.
occupation.
Yeah.
No, you want to be a security guard somewhere?
That's
be
not
an
gonna
armed.
happen.
You want to be an armed security guard somewhere? Fine, go ahead.
Paul Blart, Mall Cop.
I do not believe that. Listen, and we'll take your calls on this. What do you think about this? I mean, we have these 2 police officers who decided to make a quilt, so to speak, out of homeless people's signs, that say need help, vet, that sort of stuff. They take a picture on social media mocking the homeless in a time where we have more homeless people in this country than ever before. It is a horrible, horrible epidemic. And what do you think should happen to these police officers? It is my personal opinion that I think these police officers should never be cops again. Now, we have a lot of people that are former cops and current police officers. Yeah. When we talk about these issues, they call in. So I'm going to open up the phone lines to you and anyone else. What do you think should happen to these 2 police officers? Or do you think there should be any discipline? 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Again, that number is 257-5396. Look, here's why I think they should never be an officer again. being a police officer is an enormous amount of power. You have an enormous amount of power over people, okay? With that is, it's a privilege. It's a difficult job. I understand that. But with being a police officer comes a tremendous amount of responsibility. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. Listen, if they cracked a joke or something, it would have been inappropriate, but I wouldn't be saying the same tune. The fact that they take this picture on social media, they make a quilt out of this stuff, I'm not comfortable with these guys being police officers. That's why I say that. And again, the number to call, 702. The number to call, 702-257-5396.
Let's think about the logistics involved in creating a quilt out of this. Like, what exactly do you have to, how big was this quilt, Brian?
It's pretty good size. It's a little bit bigger than both the officers. The officers, I don't know how tall they are. I would just suspect between 5'9" and 5'11", 6 feet, whatever. And the quilt goes a little bit higher than them. So there was
and how
so
wide
JD,
is it?
The point being, there was considerable amount of effort put into this.
That looks like almost a 36 square foot quilt to me, Chris.
The point is, it took them some time to put this together.
So there was a thought process behind it. There was a consideration.
And also, what's
it wasn't a spur of the moment thing.
Are they just that bored? I mean, what's the end game? What are they trying to accomplish with that?
I just think they're idiots.
You guys know what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to be funny on social media. That's what they're trying to be.
I get that,
That's
but
what it was.
They didn't think that would at some point come back to haunt them. They thought they would actually like propel their careers as police officers. I just don't understand the logic.
Well, they didn't think. Obviously.
Well, again, we're getting back to these two officers are just not very bright, right? They're just not smart guys. It's as simple as that, right? They're just not.
Well, guess what?
They're not the brightest bulbs on the tree.
Well, guess what,
I don't know
Chris?
how many ways you can describe it. That's the way it is.
I think it's very cruel what they did. Unnecessary. Again, when I do something, I do it for a reason. I don't understand the reasoning here unless they're trying to impress some other police officers in different precincts.
You guys just
San
made
Francisco or New York or
and by
Chicago
the way,
or wherever homeless is a bigger issue than Mobile, Alabama. But I don't think they should be. I don't think they should lose their jobs. They should have to be suspended.
No, I think the apropos punishment is suspension. Yes, I think they should be suspended. Do I think they should lose their job? Probably not.
Or be funny about it and just put them only on homeless patrol for a year or two.
Yeah,
that I would be okay with.
Where they only have to deal with the homeless.
Actually, that I would actually be okay with. Open up the phone line, 702-257-5396 on this issue. These two police officers that made a homeless quilt, put it on social media, mocking the homeless. And by the way, if you want to check this out, we put it up on our Twitter page. We just posted it, which is at the Vegas Take. Do we have Scott on the line? 257-5396, by the way, is the number to call if you want to be a part of this conversation. A lot of serious issues, we've been talking about. As I mentioned, we talked about the accident that took place last week. We talked about a man who assaulted his girlfriend on video as the woman was running from him, trying to get into a neighbor's home. We talked about that. And now we're talking about these two police officers in Alabama. What a shocker, right? Alabama, what a shocker. What do you think should happen to these two police officers? I disagree with JD and Chris, maybe a little more harsh. They believe that these two police officers should be suspended. I believe they should be fired, and I don't think they should ever be allowed to be a police officer again. Let's go to Scott. Scott, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What do you think of all this?
Hey, what's up, Scott?
Hey, I appreciate it. I agree with you. They should be, let go. However, prior to letting them go, they won't even know it's part of their punishment. They ought to invite, or the judge ought to mandate that these people that were homeless and they took the signs, that these two officers open up their homes to provide a stable living for at least 3 to 6 months.
Wait, time out. Scott. So now, Scott.
After the punishment, then let them go.
Yeah, Chris,
all right, wait,
Chris,
Scott. So let me get this straight. Not only are you going to get let go from your jobs as police officers, but now that you are an unemployed police officer, you need to take in homeless people into your house.
No, Chris,
is that what I'm hearing right now?
The punishment is very simple.
Maybe those police officers will be able to utilize the signs that were already made for them.
There you go.
There it is.
In addition to being let go, they have to have their houses turned into homeless shelters.
Exactly, right? I mean, it's just add insult to injury, right? Like,
Scott, I like it. Scott, I like where you're going with this, my friend. I appreciate the phone call. Thank you.
Not only are we stripping you of your livelihood, but we're forcing you to, yes, as JD put it,
how about
make
this?
your homes
Why
homeless
don't you have these two?
And we are not responsible for any diseases that you and your family may incur along the way.
Yeah.
Sounds like a perfect
Why
solution.
don't we have these two Reno 911 morons decide to live on Skid Row for a day? Let's see if they can survive. Yeah. Why don't we let them do it? Let's see how they are, these jackasses. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Debbie. Debbie, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, Debbie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I think that these guys they should make the punishment fit the crime, not necessarily lose their jobs, but they need to go to some kind of sensitivity to homeless class, work in the soup kitchen, or work with the homeless in a way that they understand and get it, especially when homeless is so prevalent these days.
Well, obviously they have no sympathy for the homeless, and I agree. Maybe everything they do should be, for the purpose of acquiring sympathy, which comes from understanding and experience with
And listen,
the homeless.
Debbie, I understand, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think here's where I disagree with all three of you a little bit. I think being a police officer, and I've said this before, it's a lot of power, it's a lot of responsibility. I understand they're not making six figures a year. I get that. I also understand it's a very difficult job, and the majority of police officers are heroes. I'm not anti-cop, but with that being said, when somebody shows the type of judgment that these police officers showed, whether you want to call it a lack of intelligence or understanding, I don't feel comfortable with them having a weapon. I don't feel comfortable with them being able to arrest me. I don't feel comfortable with a police officer, that type of cop, coming to my residence when I have a home invasion and shooting the wrong person. Listen, I know I'm leading this to other things, but again, it goes back to what I'm saying. Being a police officer, you have to have great judgment. I think that's a fair statement to make. Sometimes you have to make split-second judgments. I'm talking about life or death, split-second judgments. And for somebody, or these two individuals, for example, to be dumb enough to not only make fun of the homeless, it wasn't at a bar, it wasn't at their house, it was in uniform. They put a picture of it on social media. These guys have to have an IQ lower than Donald Trump.
I couldn't agree more. Here's a thought. What if you make them become homeless and live among them for 30 days
Yeah.
with suspension without pay?
Yeah.
And let them
I'm with
really
that.
think about what they did and how insensitive that they were.
I think that would be.
certainly
Yeah, I like it.
In theory, that's funny and good, but I believe that's the definition of cruel and unusual punishment.
Absolutely, and they should be held to a higher standard.
Agree.
They do have an enormous responsibility that comes with the power they carry.
Yeah.
They need to think twice. I know they're brand new officers, but even so, that they need to really, really think about the other side of the coin.
You're
I
right.
don't think that what they did was maybe lose their job, but I do think that they definitely need to be punished in a way that fits the crime. Like, let them live among the homeless.
I agree, Debbie. Totally. Very good call. We appreciate your phone call. By the way, the number is 257-5396. Hey, here's something. How about Carolyn Goodman? Go to their house. Fine them. What's the fine if you're homeless in Las Vegas?
$1,000.
Yeah. Why don't we fine them $1,000 each and put them in the Clark County Jail for 6 months? Because that's the way apparently they treat homeless people in Las Vegas, right? Why don't we do that to these two police officers? Let's see how they feel about that. Maybe they won't make a quilt again. Yeah, I'll send them a quilt. I'll send them a quilt that says, "You guys are morons. You should be fired." I'll send them a quilt their way. It's ridiculous. Listen, as much as I can't stand it when people like Al Sharpton and the Jesse Jacksons of the world want to attack every police officer who's white for doing something to an African American. While many of those incidents probably are justified, some of them are not. I agree, I understand. Where are they in these types of situations too? Then when it doesn't involve race, I think everybody should be involved here. This has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with two officers that showed just horrible judgment. And I'm not going to take a step back or get off of my opinion. I don't think they should be police officers again. Listen, there are a lot of great cops out there. We have a lot of police officers that call into this show all the time. Former retired police officers. When we talk about these types of issues, the heroes on October 1, those police officers that saved lives. There are great stories that are not covered probably on a daily basis. Firefighters, police officers that put their own lives at risk to save yours. And there's no question. And then there are good Samaritans out there that we talk about all the time. Those people that went into those burning cars in that crash last week and saved those two kids' lives. Just as important as commending heroes and those type of people, I think we need to condemn people that that do heinous things, bad things that are in law enforcement as well. And this is one of those situations.
But Brian, quickly, I think you have to, differentiate between infractions. Okay, you have to. There's certain things that are, that if police officers do wrong, you should be punished much harsher for than other things. Okay, you're not going to punish these two officers in the same way that you're going to punish an officer that's a dirty cop, right? That's taking money, or that is committing felonies along those lines, or are doing things that are that people that ends up people being killed or something. I mean, there's certain levels we have to, and so I mean you're taking a position that's extreme where you're saying, you know what, boom, you're out of here because of this terrible judgment. Look, it's not the end of the world. People, I think you're taking a step further when you're talking about, ending these guys' careers before they even start.
Okay, hold on.
These guys just got out of the academy like 6 months ago.
You're taking an emotional position.
Yeah.
No,
and Chris,
I'm not.
Chris, yeah, you are. And Chris is totally right.
Not taking an emotional position.
You can't really set a precedent like
I'm
this.
not taking an emotional position. I disagree.
You are. You're
okay,
absolutely
well,
are.
Let me explain
you're
why.
Saying they should never be police officers again.
Let me explain why.
How's that not?
Let me defend and explain why I'm saying they shouldn't be officers anymore. Okay, this is a specific type of job. For example, if I go on the airwaves and I throw out the F word, on a regular basis, okay, I'm not committing a crime, but I'm probably not fit to be on the radio because you really have to be careful what you say. By the way,
well, actually, you are fit to be on radio if you're on satellite radio.
Okay,
you can do that.
We're not talking about satellite radio. Okay, that's not. I'm just talking about in general terms. If it was this station, for example, let me give you another example. If you are dumb enough, and I hate to, and I'm not going to bring up her name, and I'm not going to say she's dumb. I'm not going to do that because she is a nice lady, and I've been friends with her for a long time. But we don't talk anymore because we got into a political debate, and she doesn't like getting into. Apparently, she does a political talk show, but she doesn't like getting into political debates on social media. But I'm not going to say her name, even though she used to work for the station. But she went on the air. And
I know what you're talking about.
And this is what she said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing. She was making the claim that if you are two men or two women raising a child, that you can't be a good enough parent than if you are a man and a woman. It was an outrageous thing to say. It was a horrible thing to say, and you should be responsible for your actions. Well, guess what? She lost her job because of that. She's on another station now. Now, if she didn't work in radio again, I probably wouldn't have had a problem with that. And the reason why, if she wants to do a podcast, and she wants to work for herself, that's different. She was working for a company, and she made that ridiculous remark. You have to be responsible for the things you say. And, if you're going to make a ridiculous claim like that, you have to expect that, Tucker Carlson, perfect example, okay? The only reason why Tucker Carlson is on Fox News is because he makes Fox News a ton of money. Okay, but they're a bunch of freaking cowards over there, and here's why. See, I almost said the F word. I almost lost my radio career. Tucker Carlson said that this was 2 weeks after the shooting in Walmart, where a white supremacist walked into Walmart and killed 22 people. And this moron goes on Fox News. He's got nothing better to say. He says the idea of white supremacy is a hoax. Now, either he believes that, or he's just saying that to get clicks. Just like the idiot at InfoWars who said that school shooting in Connecticut never happened and got sued for it. That's a guy who should not be on the airwaves anywhere.
He just lost $100,000, by the way.
Did he?
So let me ask you this,
That's
Brian.
it, just $100,000?
Yeah, just $100,000.
We only got about 1 minute.
What if Don Imus, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Tucker Carlson, any of these hosts, what if they had said what this particular woman that you're talking about had said? Do you think they would have lost their jobs?
No, because they make a lot of money than what that woman makes for a company. That's just the bottom line. By the way, I don't think Sean Hannity is a racist.
Is that sexist?
No, absolutely not. This had nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. It had everything to do with the fact that she says things on the radio, and she doesn't think she should be held responsible for some of those things that she says.
You don't think that women have a shorter leash when it comes to things they can say on air?
No. Laura Ingraham is the one that told LeBron James to shut up and dribble. Laura Ingraham is the one that went after Nipsey Hussle, who did so many great things for his community, and she decided to go after his lyrics a week or two after he died. She is a racist witch. The racist witch, Laura Ingraham. She does those things every single day. Okay. And by the way, I know personal stories about her going into Las Vegas and the way she treats her employees. Anyway, we got to take a break. We got to take a break. We'll be right back after this. And we're going to talk a little UNLV hoops. We'll be right back. You are listening to the Vegas Take.
If you're attacked by a bear, a dog will throw himself into the mouth of the bear to save you. Dogs are dogs. They pour out their love onto you. Before long, you can't live without them. I have a chocolate cocker spaniel named Lady and a blackmouth cur. He's about 120 pounds, and his name is Arlo. My little cocker, her coat's as soft as a stuffed animal. They're both real soft coats, and my dogs don't have any health problems because they're eating what they need to eat.
DINOVITE.com.
Dynavite is like pouring a multivitamin right onto their food.
The omega-3 fatty acids, flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa, the digestive enzymes that are cooked out of regular dog food.
We'll be scooping our Dynavite onto the food, then squirting the liquor chops and the fish oil. They start salivating.
Dynavite is nutrition.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
It's a lot of responsibility owning a dog. I get my Dynavite at DINOVITE.com.
The only FM news talk station in the Valley. 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
On watch in Iraq, new restrictions on vaping. I'm Evan Haining. Defense Secretary Mark Esper says the U.S. may have to take preemptive action over indications that Iran or forces linked with Iran may be planning more attacks on U.S. facilities in the Mideast. Cleanup efforts are underway at the American Embassy in Baghdad. Correspondent Arwa Damon says some are asking where the Iraqi security forces were when the two-day attack began.
As one of them told us when we were down there, he said, look, what were we supposed to do? We couldn't have tried to stop this group because that would have potentially led to even more bloodshed and perhaps made it much more difficult to dial back the situation.
General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, says it's highly unlikely anyone could overrun the embassy in Baghdad, but if they tried, they would run into a buzzsaw. U.S. health officials are partially following through on President Trump's announcement that he would ban all flavored vaping products. The Trump administration now says it will prohibit fruit, candy, mint, and dessert flavors, but menthol and tobacco-flavored e-cigarettes will remain on the market. And large tank-based vaping devices commonly sold to adults will be entirely exempt. Texas Democrat Julian Castro has ended his presidential bid.
Julian Castro made the announcement in a video posted to social media.
I've determined that it simply isn't our time. So today it's with a heavy heart and with profound gratitude that I will suspend my campaign for president.
The former San Antonio mayor, who was the only Latino in the race, struggled to surpass around 1% in the polls and was reportedly running low on campaign funds.
Correspondent Clayton Neville. While deadly bushfires continue in Australia, that country has a bit of good news. For effectively the 7th year in a row, Australia's flag carrier Qantas has again been rated the safest airline in the world by airlineratings.com. I'm Evan Haining.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by Indeed.com. Watch for slowing for the crash reported I-15 southbound at Lake Mead Boulevard. Watch for slowing in the area right now. It doesn't look like there's much of a slowing pattern, but that could change. Also, a crash reported Spring Mountain west of I-15. That's now in the clearing stage. And a crash is still active on Washington at I-15 as well. Road work continues on Sunset with lane restrictions at Decatur. Indeed knows your company's roadmap to success starts with hiring first-rate employees. Visit Indeed.com/hire today and try tailored solutions to help discover the best people for your business. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This holiday season, get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off during their holiday sale.
Staples has the organizational supplies you need for the new year, like planners, folders, calendars, and more. There's a whole lot in store at Staples.
John Schaefer here for my friends at Numel Medical. You know, I've been telling you about them for a while now, and here's why. Because they are the innovators. You know, anytime you have an original idea, an original concept, you have somebody that comes along and they see the success of that original concept. Then they try and make it their own, and unfortunately, it's usually just a cheap imitation. Well, not with Numel Medical, because they are the ones who got out in front of this. Testosterone replacement, ED treatments, they're the ones who've been leading the way in the nation for sexual health procedures, and they've been providing tens of thousands of men in the Las Vegas area alone for the past 7 years with that help. Numel Medical starts with your first visit, and they are going to be there with you every step of the way. After I went there for my first visit, I felt comfortable and relaxed knowing they could help guide me through any issue I had. Numel.com, that's Numale.com, 702-505-4414. That's the number. Don't see a cheap imitation. Go to the originators. Numel.com, 702-505-4414.
Hi, it's David Masters. Join me and my brother Alan for Advice Line, 10 to midnight, Monday through Friday, right here on 720 KDON and on 101.5 FM. That's Advice Line, America's live radio counseling program. If you've got problems, we've got your answers. Monday through Friday, 10 to midnight.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
Listen to the Texas Corners Bible Church every Saturday night at 11 p.m. and Sunday night at 10 p.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON.
The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. Vegas Take, hour number 3. Man, we are in 2020. It's incredible. Where did the decade go? Where did the, put your mic on. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I can't believe we made it. 2020?
I can't believe I made it.
It seems like it was yesterday. It was 1995.
You know, I've done the New Year's Eve thing on the Strip and all that stuff with all the drunken fools. But, I'm kind of over that. I'm just getting old, man. I'm old. I'm not cool anymore. What can I say, man? My body's falling apart. Pretty soon I'm going to probably have to take blue pills. At least if you're taking blue pills, that means you're sexually active. I mean, as far as what Stein just told me in his personal life, he's not really sexually active, which is okay, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I feel for him. That's all. I feel for him. Anyway, welcome back to the show. A lot to get to still coming up in hour number 3. We're going to talk about this Gronkowski story and the reason why Steve Harvey is not very happy with him. It's really funny. We'll get to that coming up in a little bit. And, of course, the tragic passing of David Stern, former NBA commissioner. But I want to start with UNLV basketball. I've been very critical of UNLV basketball for a long time. I think it would be tough to find anyone else in Las Vegas in the media over the course of the last decade that has been more critical of the UNLV athletic department than myself. And I have no problem saying that. But one thing I'm always, at least I would like to think I am when it comes to UNLV, is fair. Mm-hmm. And when credit is due, I like to give credit to UNLV. I do. They have made some horrible decision-making as far as hiring coaches in the past decade. And there have not been a lot of positive things I've said about the program. One positive thing I did say about TJ Otzelberger, well, I've said a few positive things about him. First of all, when he was hired, I thought he did a great job in reaching out into the community and talking to people. And I thought he did a much better job of that than Marvin Menzies, that's for sure. I gave him a lot of credit for that, and he's been great to us. I gave him credit for something last week, and I think last week were they 4-8? I might be wrong on that, but I think their record was somewhere around 4-8. They lost some games, and he did something interesting that I think some coaches would not do. He took some players out of his starting lineup, some players that also, I guess, broken team rules, and he disciplined them as well. And particularly Amari Hardy. Amari Hardy was not playing some very good basketball. He was taking way too many shots. I think at times he was playing selfish. And the team itself, they just were not playing hard. So what does T.J. Otzelberger decide to do? He decides to, like I said, change up his starting lineup, sit some guys, even if it's for a few minutes, to set an example and say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this. I'm going to play a walk-on if you don't give me 110% out there. You have to dive for loose balls. He talked a lot about effort. And I said on the air last week, I said, even though I think from a coaching perspective, wins and losses, he's underachieving thus far, I said I give him a lot of respect and credit for doing something like that. Because as I said, I think there are other coaches that would not have done that. Sitting out your best player is something that is, I think it's commendable because it sets an example. And he did it at a good time, too. He did it.
Is Hardy their best player?
Yes, I no question. I think Hardy is their best player. I really do believe that. We could debate that, but that's not really the debate I'm getting into. I'm getting into the debate of, why they played so well last night. Yes. So last night, Utah State comes to town at the Thomas and Mack Center. This is a team that was favored to win the Mountain West.
They'll be one of the top 2 teams in the conference, right?
Yeah, and they were a top 25 team at one point. They had a couple losses. They lost to BYU. I think they have two losses.
St. Mary's as well.
Yeah. Two pretty good basketball teams, by the way. There's nothing embarrassing about that. They have Sam Merrill, who is the Mountain West Conference Player of the Year last year. Their best player, though, was hurt.
Yep, Ketta was out.
Yeah, so
the big man.
So I said before the game started, and by the way, I thought Utah State was going to win the game, but I said, and Chris, you could attest to this, because hours before the game, I said if there's any game that UNLV can come away with an upset, this would be the game. And the reason why was because Sam Merrill was not healthy, And as I said, their best player, their starting center, NBA prospect, did not play. But what I saw from UNLV last night, and some people are going to be surprised to hear me say this, in my personal opinion, was the best defensive effort. And I use the term effort. It's very important. Full 40 minutes I have seen from a UNLV basketball team since Lon Kruger. Now, I understand over Dave Rice, when they had Dave Rice, they beat the number one team in the country, but that really wasn't because of their defensive effort. They just made every single shot imaginable, and it was just one of those games where they caught North Carolina on a bad night. This was one of those games where they earned the victory because of their work, because of their defense. It wasn't their offense that won the game. It was their defense, and it was collective. And I thought Amari Hardy, even though when you look at his stats, you're not going to say, look, he's had plenty of games where he scored 25 points, right? He scored 30. I mean, he's had some big games. But to me, this was his best basketball game. And the reason why I say that is because of what he did on both ends of the floor, particularly on the defensive end. I don't recall him ever taking a bad shot. He created for his teammates. He did an unbelievable job on Sam Merrill. And so did a couple other guys, by the way, because there were a lot of mixing and matching with putting guys on Merrill. And I asked Amari Hardy after the game, I said, some of the decision-making, that your coach has made in regards to holding players accountable and not starting specific players like yourself, do you think that was a factor? And he gave me a great answer. And he said, absolutely. Coach did he sent a message to us, and we took that message and we brought it to the game tonight. Like I said, I give credit where credit is due. This is a big win for UNLV. And the reason why I say it's a big win, because they don't have any big wins this year. This is a big in-conference win for them. It's a win that when you look at March, hopefully they're not in the play-in game. Hopefully they're not playing San Diego State in the quarterfinals. This is the type of win that you could look back on, a couple months down the road and say, wow, that win was really monumental. It was a big win. Yes, you caught Utah State on a bad night. Yes, Utah State was awful. I think it was a 50-50 thing. UNLV's defense and their energy was fantastic. I also think Utah State was extremely flat, and it would probably be their worst played game of the year. But you have to give UNLV credit for putting themselves in that position to force Utah State into a lot of bad shots, so on and so forth. Now, it's a lot of positives, and I don't think I've said that many positives about UNLV football or basketball in a really, really long time. Like I said, since Lon Kruger was here. Now, with that said, here's what I'm going to say on the other side of this. And I know I'm being very long-winded here. I apologize. But it's one game. And this game will not mean much, if anything, if they do not defeat Air Force this weekend. Now, they came with the intensity, and TJ said it yesterday. It is my job. If this is UNLV basketball, and that's what he said, then they have to, have that sort of intensity every game because they are offensively challenged at times. They have to have that intensity on the defensive end to be successful. They certainly had it last night. The intensity has picked up. I give them credit for that. This was like, it's funny because I see Kevin Kruger on the sidelines, and I said to myself, this is his father's defense tonight, what they're doing. They're attacking. They're going after loose balls. They must have gotten every single 50-50 ball last night. That was Lon Kruger defense, and it was really fun to see, and I really enjoyed watching that. I really did. So kudos to UNLV, but like I said, it's one game. It's only one game in conference, and what really matters is consistency. But it was a great win for UNLV, and I'm really happy for TJ. And it was great to see, and I hope more fans show up to the game over the weekend, but it was great to see a real true team victory. And to me, one of the best defensive efforts, like I said, since the Lon Kruger days. Gentlemen, take over from there. Sorry if I was long-winded.
No, it was only about 26 and a half minutes. I'd like to hear about 5 more if you got it, Brian. I don't even want to talk. Can you keep going? Is that possible?
That was an impressive streak right there.
That was really good. No, you mentioned how they caught him on a bad day. I would say that would be the case if they didn't actually dominate them. They won by 17 points, Brian. When you catch a team on a bad day, like when UNLV beat that North Carolina team you were talking about, what was that score? What, they won by 3 points?
But JD, they were like 3 for 15 from 3. Utah State's not going to shoot that poorly.
They're actually 2 of 19 from 3.
Yeah, 2 of 19.
Yeah. They were terrible from 3. But do you think that Marvin Coleman is one of the reasons why defensively? Because I think he's actually a pretty decent defensive player.
I think Marvin Coleman is a very good athlete. And by the way, if you don't know who Marvin Coleman is, he is a walk-on at UNLV.
He is.
And he is one of the guys that TJ has started. In fact, he got more minutes than Amari Hardy in a few games over the course of the last several games. You know what I think? You know what I think it is, JD? I think it's contagious. I think they see this kid on the floor. They see his work ethic. Apparently, I haven't been to one of the practices, but
he's a Vegas local. He's a sophomore. He's undersized, but he's very athletic.
But what they say is that he is the hardest worker in practice. I remember the late Bryce Dijon Jones, a tragedy, former UNLV player who was shot and killed. Just a horrible, horrible story. And he had actually just signed an NBA deal. But the reason why I bring up Bryce Deshaun Jones, former Rebel, is this. I used to go to a lot of the practices that Lon Kruger, when Lon Kruger was here. And Bryce Jones is one of those guys where, man, he just gave it all in practice. He was just one of the hardest workers I've ever seen in any practice, in any situation. He was so competitive. And I think it showed in these games. And he was just a tenacious defender.
So do you think that...
And the reason why I bring that up is because I just see that work ethic in this kid. And I think it's contagious. I think if you see one guy putting forth that kind of effort, then it kind of like moves on to other players. I think Amari Hardy has turned over. I think he's turned over a new leaf with Amari Hardy.
Well, Hardy had an interesting game. Usually you look at his stats, you don't see 14, 6, 4, and 3. 3 being steals, 6 being he never gets 6 assists. He might get 2 or 3 assists. He usually shoots the ball about 20 times a game, and that didn't happen. But you really think that Neemias Queta is a 17-point difference maker? You think if he plays that game, they win?
Here's what I think happens.
There's a combination of a lot of reasons why Utah State lost that basketball game last night. I mean, Brian, you hit on a lot of the points. But, I mean, shooting-wise, Utah State was nowhere near what you would expect out of that team. So, to JD's point, I think there's a lot of factors. It wasn't just the fact of one player not being able to perform up to par, or one player playing great on UNLV's side. It was a combination of things that took place.
I think it's kind of a bad matchup for Utah State, too. They're not overly athletic. They're big. Sam Merrill's 6'5", 220, but he's not the best athlete. He's a good athlete, but he's not a great athlete.
Sam Merrill's 6'5"?
He's 6'5",
he is 6'5",
he is 6'5".
God, he doesn't look 6'5".
Yeah. Because he's got this slender build. That's why
he's probably 6'5",
he looks like he'd be
180.
like a 6'2", 6'3" type of guy, but that's not.
To answer
really
your question, yes, I think it was a huge factor that you're arguably your best player, who's
17 points.
Okay, well, let me answer. I think that it was a big factor. Now, saying that it was the only factor would be ridiculous, but it was absolutely a big factor. You know who else was a big factor? Mbake. He was fantastic.
What about Bryce Hamilton, 9 for 11,
Bryce,
22?
Listen, it was a team effort. Everyone did their job. And we hear Bill Belichick with the Patriots throughout his entire coaching career talk about it all the time. Do your job.
Right.
This was a complete team win. It wasn't one guy.
What I'm getting at here is that, okay, Queta didn't play. They didn't make their shots. But you're kind of making it seem like they just caught him on a bad day. Again, I would agree if it was a 5-point win. They won by...
I said that was a part of it. I didn't say that was the whole...
They won by 17 points. And I think had Queta played...
I just did 10 minutes giving UNLV credit. What are you talking about?
I got you. I think had Queta played, UNLV would still win that game because they have a major athleticism advantage, especially at guard.
I disagree. I think if Utah State is healthy, UNLV does not win that basketball game. I don't care how good their effort is. Sam Merrill is not 100%. He's had ankle issues. He's got wrist issues. Those are their top 2 players. You've got one of your players that is completely out of the lineup. Sam Merrill, I'm not sure he even attempted a shot in the second half. That is not the Sam Merrill that we know. He is the Mountain West Conference Player of the Year last year. So I disagree with you.
And Joan Antonio's back, but he didn't play well. He went 2 for 8 from 3.
Okay, but
he didn't play great.
I disagree with you in this. The bottom line here, guys, let's not overthink this. Utah State is by far a better basketball team. I'm sorry, they are. They caught Utah State on a bad night, and UNLV deserved to win because of their defensive effort and their intensity. I give them all the credit in the world for that. But on a neutral floor, you're telling me that UNLV wins more than maybe 2 out of 10? No, I just don't. I just don't see it that way. I don't think UNLV is that good. I think they're, as I said at the beginning of the year, and I'm not going to change my stance, they are at best a middle-of-the-road Mountain West Conference team that at best, if they're lucky, gets into the semifinals of the Mountain West Conference tournament and does not get a postseason invite. That's my personal opinion. I'm sticking by it. With that being said, I give them all the credit in the world for a fantastic game last night. It was nice to see the team effort.
And Brian, just like you, I was in the building last night. I've seen a lot since Lon Kruger was the head coach here at UNLV. And then, of course, in the post-game press conference, you brought up a very interesting point, didn't you, Brian, with respect to Amari Hardy and, the psyche of this team and how things here in the basically in the past couple of weeks. Exactly, you asked Amari Hardy and how much of a factor that is as far as the locker room in what transpired last night against Utah State.
Yeah, I asked him in the press conference the fact that TJ Otzelberger has not started him the last couple of games. In fact, he did start last night. But the fact that he hasn't, I said, was that a factor in giving you a little bit more motivation to just play harder? I think that was around the...
Basically, that was the gist of it.
And I loved his answer.
There's a change in mentality, right?
I loved his answer. I loved his answer.
That is what took place last night, JD and Brian, right? In that game. That was a different basketball team from a mentality standpoint than we have been used to with this team, even in the season. Look, we're talking about a team that is 15 games into the season. Okay, it's not necessarily early on in the season, But we have an idea of what the makeup of this team is from a basketball standpoint, but from a mentality standpoint, it is obviously changed, right, Brian? I mean,
So-
it's not the same team
So
that
I
they
guess
were 5 games ago.
I guess the question I asked and his answer was quoted in the Review Journal. So I actually found the quote that Hardy's response to me was this in regards to not starting him and trying to motivate him to play a little bit harder and get the team. This is what he said. He said, quote, "As a coach, that's what you're supposed to do. He's creating a culture. It's his first year, and that's something you want to do. If I was the coach, I would have done the same thing. You want players accountable. It definitely showed tonight." That I think the team has turned over a new leaf. I was worried a few weeks ago that maybe he lost the team. You heard all these guys breaking team rules and all this other stuff. But the fact that Hardy is respecting his coach, I think that goes a long way.
And that's what it comes down to is respect. He is earning the respect of his players, and soon he's going to earn the respect of his fans. That's something Marvin Menzies never did. He was their friend. He was not their superior.
No, I agree
That
with
being
that.
said, guys, we have covered UNLV basketball a long time, especially Brian and I right here in town. We still got to see them come to play on Saturday against Air Force.
And they still,
they have to come.
They
to
had
play.
17 turnovers. Air Force doesn't turn the ball over. Probably not. They're much more athletic. Again, Utah State is not athletic at guard. Air Force is athletic at guard. UNLV, they still fouled 21 times. Utah State shot 25 free throws, by the way, and they still lost by 17. I'm just shocked by the margin of victory. Again, I get, and I've said this 3 times, I get a 1, a 2, a 3, even a 5-point loss, but 17 points, that is domination.
You know the deal, JD. You know why, right? It was because you mentioned it. 2-19 from 3. Okay, you shoot 2-19 from 3. I think they thought they shoot 33% total from the field. Utah State. That is going to be a remedy for you getting beat by double digits.
And speaking of the Mountain West, San Diego State beats Fresno State by 9. They are 16-0, undefeated. One of 2 teams in the NCAA to be undefeated. The other one is Auburn.
And what did I say 3 weeks ago when absolutely nobody was talking about San Diego State, JD? Nobody was talking about San Diego State a month ago. Nobody was saying they were a nationally ranked team. I watched them play a couple games at the Orleans where they just beat up Creighton and they beat up a really good Illinois team. And I said, let me tell you something, man. This team is legit. They are a top 25 team in the country. They're better than Utah State. Well, guess what? Now they're ranked 13th in the country. They're ranked ahead of Kentucky and teams like Michigan State. I'm telling you, nobody thought that was going to happen. They got this kid Flynn, a transfer, a guard who is incredible. They've got guys down low that have NBA ability, NBA talent, and then they got guys like Mitchell coming off the bench who I think could also play at the next level somewhere, be paid to play basketball somewhere. Dutch and San Diego State, they are stacked. They have a stacked basketball team. With that being said, I don't know what's going to happen Saturday night. They go to Utah State. Utah State's not healthy. Sam Merrill does not look like the Sam Merrill that we know. I don't know how this Utah State can defeat San Diego State. I think it's a horrible matchup for them. Horrible.
What is it, in 3 days now Kenta's going to be healthy and ready to roll out there on Saturday?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
We talked about Sam Merrill and his physical issues.
Yeah.
I don't see how, Utah State from a physical standpoint is going to get he's going to get so much better here in the next couple of days. Yeah. That's crazy.
And they're going to be a popular play too. There's going to be a lot of money on Utah State in this situation because
you think so?
Oh, absolutely. They're thinking, they just got beat by UNLV.
They'll be irate because of it.
Lowly UNLV. Now they're at home, and I think San Diego State wins that game by 10 as well.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I think San Diego State. I've said that last night. I don't know how Utah State wins that game.
But Mensa might be out for Saturday.
They're still stacked.
Steve Fisher, who? Brian Dutcher handled his business down there at San Diego State.
Well, there's nothing better than when we enter March Madness. We have so many college basketball tournaments in Las Vegas. And by the way, Gonzaga is going to be coming to town. How good is the West Coast Conference this year?
Man.
The West Coast Conference might be as good as it's been in a decade this year. You have St. Mary's. St. Mary's pretty good. Yeah. BYU probably has their coach over at BYU since they fired Rose, who I never thought was a great coach. This guy who took over is doing a fantastic job. BYU is an NCAA tournament team. I'm going to tell you, BYU, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you look at that West Coast Conference tournament, this is a different BYU team. They're not intimidated by anybody. They could give Gonzaga a competitive basketball game.
Man, I don't know. Gonzaga, they've won their last 5 games by an average of 33 points. They're favored.
Well, they're very good.
Granted, they're on the road at Portland tonight, but they're favored by 24. I'm actually looking at Portland in that game, but Gonzaga has a ton of talent. They've got Adam Gilder, who transferred from Texas A&M. They've got Kispert. I mean, they've got probably 3 or 4 NBA players on that team. But I agree, BYU will probably play them relatively close. But the Gonzagas, I mean, they legitimately they're in the conversation as the top team in the country.
But I bring up these tournaments. It's not just the West Coast Conference. Obviously, we have the Mountain West Conference tournament at the Thomas and Mack Center. When all this is going on, the Pac-12 tournament is also here at T-Mobile Arena. We also have the WAC. It's insane how many postseason basketball tournaments.
It's a basketball mecca that time of year. There's no question here in Las Vegas, but specifically the West Coast Conference, you guys brought it up. I mean, yes, we're talking about there is a separation, right, Brian and JD, when it comes to Gonzaga and the other teams in the West Coast Conference. Yes, we're talking about a couple of those other schools that are good basketball teams, but Gonzaga is a legitimate national championship contender.
I don't think there's any question about that. But, again, quickly going back to UNLV real quick. If they play with that type of intensity, which I think is very difficult to sustain, but if they can play with that type of intensity on both ends of the floor, particularly on the defensive end of the floor, I think they could squeeze into maybe the 4th or 5th in conference. I think that's doable. That's possible. I think it's wide open in the middle of the conference. Obviously, the top 2 teams, and it's everyone else looking at them, is Utah State and San Diego State. I truly believe in
Nevada. I think Nevada's actually better than Utah State right now.
Steve Alford, I tell you, Steve Alford's doing a fantastic job.
I know a ton of talent.
I know he struggled at UCLA, but as soon as they hired him at UNR, I said that is a fantastic hire for a number of different reasons. Number 1, he's a name. Number 2, he can recruit. Number 3, look what he did at New Mexico. By the way, New Mexico lost to San Jose State last night.
Oh, wow.
Are you kidding me? San Jose State, a lot of people feel like they shouldn't even have a basketball program, and New Mexico goes in there and they lose. By the way, one of Marvin Menzies' protege assistant coaches struggling mightily, and he did not have a good year last year either. How the hell did San Jose State win that game? I don't know. But again, UNLV has a chance with the talent that they have, if coached properly, if they play with the intensity they had last night. I see no reason why they can't be 4th or 5th in conference. And that's what I said. I said, give yourself a chance for an NIT berth. Give yourself a chance for postseason, which I think would be a phenomenal feat in year 1. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think they're good enough, regardless of coaching, regardless of that sort of thing. I just don't think they're a good enough basketball team to get there. But the way they played last night has me thinking, maybe they're not a play-in game type team in the Mountain West Conference tournament. Maybe they won't have to play San Diego State or Utah State in the first round if they play with the intensity they showed last night.
And it wasn't just about the defensive side of the ball. We talked a lot about the defensive side of the ball with the Runner Rebels. Right? Last night, offensively, they got to go in too as well. Bryce Hamilton, a nice game. He ends up with 20 points in the game. He had his mid-range game going, as well as some flashy plays also. Of course, JD brought up the stat line with Amari Hardy, and Amari Hardy is going to have to be a big key for them offensively throughout the entire season for them to be relevant in the Mountain West. But how about Mbake Jong last night, Brian? How about the performance he put on?
Yeah, that was
from a defensive standpoint. He was looking Elijah-esque out there at points.
He had 10, 14, and 4. I would actually argue that Mbake Jong is the best player on UNLV right now because of his defensive effectiveness.
That was just indicative of UNLV's performance last night. Mbake, he gets hurt. He's down on the ground.
That was crazy,
and then 5 minutes later, he's back on the floor. That kid's tough. And as TJ said yesterday, he is kind of the heart and soul of that team.
He's also averaging a double-double this year.
Yep. JD, he was coming off the court, right? And his head was down. It was like somebody shot him when he was we thought for sure he might have been done for the season, if not for the game.
Mm-hmm. So congratulations to UNLV. We could continue. Hopefully they get the W. Hopefully they get the W against Air Force this weekend, because if you lose to Air Force, then you say, well, that game might have been a little meaningless. You got to take care of business against a pretty well-coached Air Force team. Those kids play really hard. If you want to talk about intensity, they're very fundamentally sound. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, word came out yesterday, a brain hemorrhage. We knew that David Stern had a brain hemorrhage. We didn't know how serious it was. The former NBA commissioner has died at the age of 77. Very sad. There's a lot of mixed feelings, emotions, and statements on social media and on television about David Stern. I'll explain what those are, my feelings on David Stern, his legacy on the game of basketball. We'll explain that and much, much more. And again, I keep teasing this. We're going to get to this coming up, I promise you. Gronkowski on national TV on New Year's Eve, he did something that got Steve Harvey very, very upset. It has nothing to do with dating his daughter, wrecking a car, or anything like that, I promise you. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Sarcoma. Odds are you've never heard that word before. For the 40 people diagnosed with sarcoma every day, it is a life-changing word because sarcoma is cancer. Through awareness, advocacy, and research, the Sarcoma Foundation of America is bringing hope to the families whose lives have been turned upside down by a cancer they had never heard of until diagnosis. Please join us in the fight to find the cure for sarcoma. For more information on the work of the Sarcoma Foundation of America, go to curesarcoma.org.
Has put new restrictions on some vaping products. Menthol and tobacco-flavored e-cigarettes will be allowed, but fruit, candy, mint, and dessert flavors teenagers like will be banned. However, the flavor ban will not affect the larger specialty devices typically sold at vape shops whose customers are over 21. Former HUD Secretary Julian Castro has ended his campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination. Castro says his campaign has stood up for the most vulnerable people.
But with only a month until the Iowa caucuses, and given the circumstances of this campaign season, I've determined that it simply isn't our time.
Israel's Supreme Court has declined to weigh in on whether Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu can return to his post now that he has been indicted. That postpones any ruling on his political future until after March elections. Netanyahu is charged with bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. I'm Evan Haining.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by Indeed.com. Watch for slowing for the crash reported I-15 southbound at Lake Mead Boulevard. Watch for slowing in the area right now. It doesn't look like there's much of a slowing pattern, but that could change. Also, a crash reported Spring Mountain west of I-15. That's now in the clearing stage. And a crash is still active on Washington at I-15 as well. Road work continues on Sunset with lane restrictions at Decatur. Indeed knows your company's roadmap to success starts with hiring first-rate employees. Visit Indeed.com/hire today and try tailored solutions to help discover the best people for your business. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
So, Chuck, some people have the impression that payday loan companies suck. Why is that?
Because they do. Luckily, Dollar Loan Center's not a payday loan company. We're a short-term installment lender where you only pay interest for the time you have the loan out. No other fees, no surprises, and crystal clear contracts.
And how do the paycheck places work?
They cost way more, they don't lend as much, and you normally have to pay it back in 2 weeks no matter what. Look, if you have a payday loan, do yourself a favor, come see us at Dollar Loan Center. Normally we can save you up to half of what you're paying now and give you way longer to pay it back.
That was Chuck, founder of Dollar Loan Center, where you can get up to $5,000 in minutes, even without a checking account. We have over 50 locations, and our friendly Dollar Loan Center staff are ready to help. You can also apply over the phone or online at don'tbebroke.com.
Licensed by Nevada Financial Institutions Division. Customer must meet the normal loan qualifications. To review loan qualifications, visit us at don'tbebroke.com. Certain limitations may apply. Loans are subject to approval.
My name is Ruth Rusi, and this is how I live United. I read to children as part of United Way's education program. It helps them create links between language and literacy and prepares them for a better academic future. I figure I have the time and they have the need. My name is Ruth Rusi. I help kids prepare to succeed in school. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. Little Muse, right? Little Muse action. Welcome back to the show on a Thursday. And by the way, tomorrow on the show, they are known as, well, I guess you could call them pot professionals, right? Is that a fair claim? I don't know. Sierra Riddle and Zarilla Bacon are going to be coming on the show tomorrow.
Ladies of the cannabis industry,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Is that the technical definition?
Pot professionals, also known as
They're-
ladies of the cannabis. Yes.
Very, very well integrated and known in the cannabis industry, and they happen to be female.
So a lot of questions to ask them about obviously the benefits of marijuana.
And one of them is a very, very highly decorated chef.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, well, Chris Wynn would definitely enjoy that.
I would
As
be all over that.
As would I. But anyway, they're going to be joining us in studio on the show tomorrow, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I mentioned this earlier. Sad story. Former NBA commissioner David Stern has passed away. He had a brain hemorrhage last week. I want to get Oscar Goodman on the show, former mayor of Las Vegas. He had a personal relationship with David Stern, sometimes not the greatest, but Stern was responsible for bringing the Las Vegas NBA All-Star weekend here, and Oscar Goodman obviously was a big part of that. So we'll get Oscar on to talk about that eventually. But my interactions with David Stern were very limited. I had one interview with him that was during NBA All-Star weekend, and I got about 10 minutes with him. I was working for another station at the time. He was just, I just found him to be very respectful, but at the same time, very anti-Vegas, in this sense, anti-gambling. And that made me dislike him for that because, we're trying to get a franchise here, right? Keep in mind, that was when we didn't have the Raiders coming to town. We didn't have a professional hockey team. We didn't have the Aces. We didn't have a soccer team. All we had was UNLV, and we were dying to get a professional franchise here, right? So that made me dislike the man. And, I've had a lot of people over the years that have worked with him within the industry said that he was difficult to work with at times, a bit egotistical. And then I've had other people say, listen, he was a decent guy. He had his personality traits that maybe some people didn't like. But listen, make no mistake about it. First of all, this guy completely turned around the NBA. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is this. When he took over as the commissioner, the NBA was struggling from a financial standpoint. He made great decisions, made a few bad ones too, but made the majority of great decisions that really turned the NBA and helped pave the way to what it is today, which is very entertaining and very popular. So he left his mark on the NBA. It wasn't just the NBA, though. Everybody in the WNBA should be sending condolences because David Stern is the reason why the WNBA exists. It is the reason why you can go to a Las Vegas Aces game with your family at a reasonable price and watch good women's basketball. It is the reason why women are able to be paid to play basketball in the United States of America. David Stern is the one that started that. Listen, David Stern was an extremely intelligent guy. Make no mistake about it. He probably knew that the WNBA was not going to be a moneymaker, but he also knew that women deserved their role to be professional players, and this gave them that platform. And the NBA is making enough money where we can support the WNBA, and also you do something like that, bring some of those female fans maybe to the NBA. So I think it was smart on his part to do that. He's the reason why the WNBA exists. He is a good reason, besides the players, a good reason why the NBA is so successful now as to when he took it over, it was in shambles. He also made, and I thought this was a great rule that he put in place to make sure that the players dress appropriately if they're not playing. You can't show up in a wife beater and shorts and sandals to an NBA game. Remember that controversy, but he made sure that there was a tire that would be put in place to make sure that certain clothes you cannot wear and certain clothes you have to wear. It was those type of things that he implemented, and some of the players didn't like it. But I think you had to respect this man. You didn't always have to agree with him, but you had to respect David Stern. So he will be sorely missed at the age of 77. He was a good man. He might, he might have had personality traits that maybe some people didn't like. He certainly made his mark in basketball, and he did a lot of good things for the game of basketball. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts, your reflections of David Stern?
There's no question that the impact on the NBA is a big part of David Stern's legacy. He started in the NBA as a general counsel member, and then, of course, he ended taking over in 1984. He came into the NBA as the commissioner in 84. It was already starting to improve. And what I mean by that is that, of course, that was back in 1979, 1980, was when Larry Bird and Magic Johnson came into the league, and that was kind of the beginning of the makeover. Back then, back in the late 70s, JD and Brian, the NBA, a lot of it was on tape delay. There was a lot of issues in the NBA that were unresolved, whether it be drug issues that were plaguing the league. It was a league that had a bad image. And then David Stern took over as commissioner, and it started to improve immensely. Also, you brought up a lot of the accolades, Brian, regarding David Stern. He is also responsible greatly for the globalization of the NBA and it being popular all over the world, bringing in having it be a league that's receptive to players from other countries. And that has been a huge factor for the NBA, making it the behemoth that it is on a global level. So that's another thing that we need to credit David Stern with from perspective of being commissioner of the NBA. But there's no question, you brought it up. It was a league that was just plagued with a lot of issues that was not making money. It was a league that was not thriving by any stretch of
Let me
imagination.
ask you guys this, though. What do you think was his biggest
a big factor?
What do you think was his biggest issue? Because he faced a lot of issues. Was it the malice at the palace? Was it the gambling issue with Tim Donaghy? He faced a lot of difficult situations throughout his tenure as NBA commissioner. What do you think was one of his most difficult ones? Because I think there's plenty.
I don't know about the malice of the palace. That was a kind of an outlier thing that you don't want to happen in any league, right? You don't want any type of violent activity like that. I don't know. It's a good question, actually, as far as what was the biggest. You're saying like the biggest controversy he had to deal with, or like the?
I would say it was gambling, hands down.
It was. I don't think there's any question about that.
See, this is the thing.
It's tied to Vegas because it's
and that's the reason why he was so anti-gambling. But no, Donaghy actually, he's come on our show a couple of times, and he actually said something very, very unkind about Stern last time he was on the show. But he said that he believes that Stern was actively involved himself, and he had officials who were on the take, connected to different types of mobs across. But I think what David Stern did the best for basketball was he understood that it was a fun game. That he, like the big dunks, the highlight reels, the Michael Jordan, the NBA draft really got a lot of publicity after Stern came on board. ESPN, those major TV deals. He understood how to market the NBA much better, and a big part of it was the fact that cleaning up the image. Iverson did his thing and with the shorts and stuff, but you're right. But before the players were forced to wear nice attire to games, you didn't really know, and I think it was difficult for fans to relate to the players before that, and then they weren't looked at as professionals. But he said, "Hey, you guys are professionals. You guys are making, and it wasn't hundreds of millions, but you guys are making millions of dollars right now. You need to get a couple of nice suits." Whenever you travel, and they traveled first class, they traveled in planes. I mean, I just think he really understood how to make the NBA much more acceptable to a much larger national and, as you stated, international audience.
Let me just go back to the interview that I did with him, and I should have got that. I think I still have that audio. So I interviewed him during NBA All-Star Weekend, and I asked him about the gambling, and I said, Mr. Stern, about getting a franchise here, and he told me how concerned he was about gambling, and I looked at him and I said, you do realize that you can walk anywhere in Las Vegas and gamble on NBA games, right? And he looked at me and says, yes, I understand that. Then I said, then what's the difference? I said, what's the difference between gambling on a game here in Las Vegas and gambling on games throughout the country? He didn't really give me an answer on that. Mm-hmm. And I think he was uneducated is the best word when it came. Now, obviously he's a very educated, smart guy, but he was not educated when it came to gambling. He didn't understand that you can bet illegally offshore. And I said, listen, you do understand that if you're in another state, right? If you're in LA, if you're in Boston, because he made it like, no, you can't gamble on games outside of Las Vegas. Now, legally, he was right. But what he didn't understand was the bookie stuff, the bookie situation, and back
the illegal gambling.
You can bet. You can bet.
One thing, Adam Silver.
I don't know if it's uneducated, guys. It's probably defiant, right? Mm-hmm. That's the word I probably use for David Stern.
He thought it was taboo
because he
just
knew
like
about
a lot of
it.
people
he
did.
knows.
But I think that one thing Adam Silver recognizes the fact that probably 60% of sports fans gamble on sports. And if you have legalized gambling, your ratings are going to go up. And look at the NFL, despite the fact that they have all this controversy and the product isn't that great right now, ratings are as high as they've ever been this year because sports betting is legalized in 17 or 18 more states.
Yeah.
And Stern, he just didn't. I don't think he really understood how many people that are watching religiously the NBA are wagering on it.
What he did understand and what he did very, very well was to maximize finances and how to make the NBA a great business model and product, and he should be looked up to for that, and also what he did for women's basketball.
Well, and how many expansion teams?
Yeah.
Did he bring in? Was it 6?
Plenty.
He brought in a lot. Yes.
The Magic,
Toronto Raptors,
the Raptors, the Grizzlies.
He did a lot of. The point I'm trying to make is, while at times he did some things that were controversial, and not everybody agreed with him, the man did a lot for basketball.
I would say he did more good than bad.
Absolutely, he did. I agree. I agree. Yeah. And they got a great commissioner now, by the way. But David Stern, sadly, will be missed. Lost his life, passed away at the age of 77. 7. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I've been teasing this story. I'm looking forward to talking about it. Gronkowski, New Year's Eve, pissing off Steve Harvey live on national television. We have the audio to play for you coming back, and it involves a Lego set. Yeah, really bizarre situation. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with that right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM 720 AM KDAWN.
Do you know that mortgage rates have plummeted to a 3-year low and are nearing historic lows? At the same time, home values have gone up roughly 50% in the last several years. However, they seem to be peaking now. Maybe it's time to put that equity to work by paying off high-rate credit cards, personal loans, or remodel your house. Hi, I'm Wesley Hoagland with Westland Financial. Let us put you in a position to do any of these things with no closing costs. That's right. Nothing's rolled into your loan, whether it's conventional, FHA, or VA, will pay your title, settlement, lender, and recording fees. Maybe you just want to lock in a lower rate or refinance out of paying mortgage insurance. All it takes is a 5-minute phone call to see how we can save you thousands of dollars a year. So call Westland at 888-455-3669. It's the biggest no-brainer in the history of mankind. Call us at 888-455-3669. 888-455-3669. That's 888-455-3669.
NMLS number 3304. Not all loans apply. Equal housing lender.
Listen to 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDAWN, wherever you have an Amazon Echo device. Simply enable the KDWN skill on your Amazon Alexa app. Then say, Alexa, open KDAWN.
Thank you for opening KDWN. You can choose Play Live Stream.
On the air, on the web, on the KDWN app, and now on your Amazon Echo. 101.5 FM, 720 AM.
Thank you for listening to KDWN.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
All right, welcome back. Wrapping up a Thursday. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. By the way, I did mention some of those guests we will have on the air tomorrow. But since our producer is here, why doesn't he do the job for me once in a while? You know, I mean, Jason, why don't you preview the show?
He's a busy guy,
Mr.
Brian.
Stein.
He's got a lot of stuff he's got to do. He just can't be rolling
First of all,
in here and
why
implement
is your
segments every
chair?
once in a while.
Why you look like you're sitting in a high chair? By the way,
yeah.
It's really bizarre. Your mic is near where your belly button is. You just look. You always look. Why do you always look so awkward when you come in studio? You just look really weird. Like why? I don't know what is going on.
I'm actually very okay with it.
Here we go. Okay, here we go. There.
You would think you've never done radio
Someone messed
before.
with these chairs while we were on vacation, I think.
Oh, is that? Well, so you
want
want
to sabotage?
You never.
I know
You're
who it
just.
was.
You know. This is why I compare you to
I won't
Donald
say
Trump.
who it is.
You never take responsibility for your own actions. You sound like Donald Trump.
I'm
Take
just sitting in that chair
responsibility.
that's up a little too
Oh,
high. Okay, I didn't do anything. I
wow.
didn't do anything criminal.
Well, here's the deal, Brian. You're
Anyway.
the one that pointed it out. There's no responsibility for something you pointed out.
I mean, you know,
No responsibility.
adjust yourself.
Just
that's all.
because it bothers you doesn't mean it bothers me, Chris, Kelso, or Campbell.
I don't care
Yeah.
what you guys think. All that matters is what I think.
Right.
That's all I care about, and it bothers me. So that's all that
And I'm
matters.
happy that I got you to admit that.
Listen, I'll tell you what. When we go to TGI Fridays tonight, I'll get you a high chair. All
Are
right?
we going
I
to
promise.
TGI Fridays?
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
what?
I'll pay for your Sesame
Listen,
Jack chicken strips.
It must be the time of the show where you're out of things to say. 'Cause
Those
that's
are
when
so
you that's
good.
when you invite
Oh,
me in.
trust me, my
to make-
friend.
That's
I
the
like
time when
that.
you invite me in to make
Trust
fun of
me.
me.
Trust
Running out of content.
Trust me, my friend, when you come in studio, I always have something
Yep.
to say, and I usually bite my tongue because if I ever go any personal route, I'll never hear the end of
No,
it from
he's-
him.
I
And his
think-
father's listening, and his wife is probably listening, so I will never hear the end of it. So no.
I think you're definitely running out of content right now, and you are trying to create content at the
That's right.
expense of our
That's right.
of
What was
our-
that Ralph
of
Tresvant
our
song?
producer and your
Sensitivity.
so-called friend.
He's called so-called friend who wrecks my car and doesn't tell me about it.
He's
yeah,
still
what a
not over
wonderful.
that. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
'cause
please do.
We do have a couple of loose ends to tie up from before we went on vacation.
You're making it like we're married. Thank
One,
God. What are you talking about?
So speaking of the car, listeners of the show know that I was parking Brian's car for him, and I misjudged the parking lot I was in, and I may have scraped very lightly against
What do you
the
mean
pole.
you may have?
There's no may have, right? It's
You damaged my car, you fool.
All the facts are still not in here.
Hey, buffoon!
I'm waiting for the surveillance camera.
You
'cause
caused
there's
five-
a chance that I didn't do it.
You caused
But anyway.
$500 worth of damage to my car,
So-
you buffoon.
Okay, so first of all, the $500 quote, that's
Yes.
coming from his neighbor who apparently works on cars. He's got, I don't know what his
Well, they
qualifications
both saw
are.
the damage, so
Not
they can
even a
attest to
valid
We're
it.
talking about a
source,
couple
huh?
scrapes and a little. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
so Brian made a deal with me. Okay, he said, "Look, I won't make you pay this $500 to get my car repaired if you do the following
And quit your job.
Take me out to lunch at Carl's Jr.
Yeah, which was $10.
Which I spent $11.83 on his meal.
Wow.
Because he kept adding on. He goes, no, you know what? I want the big Carl. And I want some cookies to go with that. And I want the large fry. And I want the large. So it wasn't just like a normal meal at Carl's Jr. It was like a lot of food.
The
They
super
didn't
duper
finish.
special.
They
The
didn't finish.
super duper.
Right, because he wanted to
edition.
stick it to me. So
He
it's about
wanted the Uncle
$12
Carl.
If I wanted to stick it to you, I would have given you the price for the damage, you fool. Yeah, I made you pay fast food. What do you mean I wanted
The
to
other
stick
thing he
it to you?
forced me to do is while he was in Connecticut, he forced me to take his car to the Firestone and have the oil changed in his car. So I had to take his car in. I had to sit there in the little waiting room and read the old magazines while they put the oil in his car.
So would you rather have spent $4 or $5?
And then I had to return his car to the parking lot, and it was like a whole ordeal.
What a chore.
It took up like my whole afternoon.
Well, here's some advice for you,
It was like
Stein.
2 hours of my day.
Here's some advice for you. If you don't want to get a friend's oil change, here's what we forget about this story. You didn't tell me you got the car into you didn't crash the car. You weren't honest with me about it. Next time you take somebody's property, let me tell you something. If I borrowed one of your DVDs and I scratched your DVD, I would have told you about it. You scratched my car.
Who watches DVDs?
You get the point I'm trying to make, okay? You
come up with something more current?
Okay, well,
What is
here's
this, 1997?
Here's something current.
I scratched your DVD.
Here's something current. Go back to the DMV and get your driver's license over again because I don't think you know how to drive a car. That's what. Speaking. Okay, so fine.
I've explained it. Okay.
Right. Well, thank you
Couldn't
for
figure out how to make your seat go up, and then the car's longer than mine. I
It's
don't
not
have
my
that rear
fault
view
you're
camera.
4
I don't have
feet
that,
tall.
I'll
that
be
fancy
honest,
rear
it
view
just-
camera that I've become accustomed to.
It just sounds to me like Brian's a really bad businessman. You just cost yourself about $400 there, bro.
Yeah, I am. I'm a bad judgment of character
Well,
too
here's
because I
the thing.
call
He
my
doesn't
friend.
really care. He's not going to get it repaired. He doesn't really care about the damage.
Now-
This car, even with the
He
little
doesn't
tiny bit of
care.
scratches on it, is so much better than the car he used to have.
Oh my gosh,
that
it's not
it
even the
doesn't
same
it doesn't-
stratosphere,
he
my
used
friend.
to have like
Yeah.
rotting omelets. He had omelets and prime rib
People.
and people
Yeah.
in the back seat of
Hey,
that car.
So do you think
So
that
this is like
I think Jimmy Hoffa was under the seat. There's a couple other missing pieces
Let's
there.
say hypothetically that Brian's next door neighbor, that none of this happened, and he made you pay the $500, and then the quote was right. Do you think that Brian would have double dipped and taken a piece from his next door neighbor as a referral fee?
He would have done something. He would have done something to enrich
You
himself.
know, you guys are trying to personally attack me for
I'm not
this.
sure why.
Let me just explain. Hold on a second. Let me just.
I think you would have taken 15%.
No, hold on a second. Okay,
he would have
somebody.
taken $500, then gone to a place
know,
that would have charged
they're going
him,
after-
that campaign recommended that
they're
would have charged
going after-
$200, and then he would have pocketed
All
the
right.
$300 or
I was,
something.
I was getting fired up for a Gronk and Steve Harvey
yeah, we
story
gotta
here,
get
and
to that.
this just got
We have to get
sidetracked
to that.
In
into
closing,
So he would have taken the
Speaking of
$300.
destroying
and
things.
so JD
And
continues the conversation.
He would have
Yeah,
taken
yeah.
300, gone with campaign, took 2 girls out, spent $150
Yeah.
a piece on them at your expense.
That's elaborate, but I could see it happening.
I
think
could
so,
easily
too.
see that transpiring. Yes,
Right.
JD. I could.
Okay,
That
so-
definitely sounds right to me.
Yeah.
Steve Harvey, you want me to
No,
set
no, no,
this
no,
up,
no.
or do you guys?
You're not going to end this. I'm just going
Okay.
to. I'm going to end it now. You jerk. I'm going to end it by saying this. Don't go after my character. If I borrowed somebody's car and I scratched it or banged it up, which you did, by the way, I would tell them about it. I wouldn't wait until they saw it. Okay, you jerk. So don't talk to me about personal character traits and all that stuff. Okay, I just want to end the conversation there. It's over
Hey,
now.
by the
Okay,
way, your chair is starting to bother me now a little bit.
it is.
I
Yeah,
really
just-
feel like Stein's going to
just-
fall and break his
just-
ankle.
By the way,
just a little
because
bit.
he's so
By the
high
way,
in
we
his
were
chair right now.
at O'Shea's, and I guess one of the poster people from O'Shea's is a small person, right,
Yeah.
about 3 feet tall. I got to tell you, Stein did not tower over him. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
He also didn't seem to like me too much.
Well,
either.
no, because you're a creep.
No,
That's
because
what
he's-
your that's what
He
your
wouldn't
wife
shake
told
my
me.
hand. He
because
walked away
he's a
from me.
threat. He's a threat to attention.
All right, all right.
Stein says he didn't like him.
He didn't like me.
All
He made
right.
an immediate judgment on Stein.
Poor
Didn't
guy.
even know him.
Poor guy's got to take pictures of the people, and everyone's taking pictures with him because he's small. And Stein wants to be. Oh, thank you so much for. Thank you so. Of course, the guy's in a bad mood, just like you all day. Anyway, let's move on to this Gronk story. So Gronkowski, if you were not aware, he was on Fox New Year's Eve broadcast with Steve Harvey. He's on the stage. And he messes with this Lego set. We have some audio from this, I believe. So I want to play this. This was New Year's Eve. This is Gronkowski and Steve Harvey. Take a listen to this.
What are you doing?
That's a Lego bust. Of
Are you
Steve Harvey's
serious?
head.
I don't want to work with him no more. Why is he here? Why are you here? What is wrong with you? You're mentally imbalanced. This nut right here that broke the... You know how hard it is to get them brown Legos?
Anyway, by the way, if you want to talk about mentally imbalanced, let's talk about Steve Harvey's daughter. By the way, if you want to talk about somebody that can't drive a car and then leaves the scene of a crime. But with that being said, what do you guys make of this? Because first of all, do you think that was genuine? Do you think that was real? Do you think Steve Harvey was genuinely pissed off at Gronkowski? Because it sounded to me like it was real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got the video up on Twitter, and you can see it. But at the same time, Steve Harvey's a great comedian. So at some point in that interaction, he kind of smirks a little bit because he's a comedian and he knows the value in it and how absurd this is. So there's a part of him that thinks it's funny, but his initial reaction is anger. And the reason is, and you guys see this video, I mean, somebody created a bust of Steve Harvey's head out of Legos. I mean,
that's hard to do.
It's work of art. Someone took a lot of time to do this. Harvey was probably going to take it home with him, probably display it in his house. And Gronkowski wearing this idiotic leather helmet. He's wearing one of those old-timey football uniforms with the leather helmet and some old-timey jersey. And he just, because it's Gronkowski, when he was with the Patriots, he would spike the football really hard. That was his thing.
Yeah.
So he was doing that. So he picked up this beautiful work of art, this Lego bust, and just smashed it into 1,000 pieces on live television, and then did like a touchdown dance. So to answer your question, yeah, Harvey, he was pissed, and I would be too.
I thought that was funny, but this is Gronkowski. This is the kind of stuff he does. He does outlandish things. And, this is what the guy does.
Are we really shocked that Gronkowski would do this? Gronkowski is the resident party boy of the NFL, right? That's his persona. This is what this guy is.
He does like to party.
He's the frat boy of you. Just think of everybody you go out with, the most lunatic guy that you go out with to party with. And Gronkowski's that guy.
He's the kind of guy.
There's no surprise that he would do this.
He's the kind of guy who locked Jason Stein in his locker in high school.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he's also the kind of guy that the producers of whatever this Fox show is. Every station's got a show now. Anderson Cooper's does a thing.
Yes, right.
And Dick Clark's the Ryan Seacrest thing and all that.
By the way,
so this one's got to be pretty low on the list.
After seeing that happen and hearing that happen, I'm probably 95% certain that Rob Gronkowski suffers from CTE.
No, there's something. Like Steve Harvey says,
Wait,
you're mentally imbalanced.
Hold on.
But to Stein's point, though, it is it's like the fourth highest rated.
Wait, so the producers of this thing, we got to get people to come on.
JD just said something that I completely... You're saying he's got CTE because he knocked over some Legos?
When you watch the video, I think there's some evidence. There's some circumstantial evidence.
That's one of 10 or 15 things that he's...
Circumstantial
evidence.
JD, he does a lot of crazy stuff.
He does crazy stuff on a consistent basis, but he's been hit in the head how many times? I mean, he played football at a high level for 9 years, and not just 16 games. He played 20 games a year because he played the playoffs and he played the Super Bowl almost every year that he played.
I've been hit in the head before. I know you've been hit in the head before.
Not like that.
And someone made those Legos at a very high level.
Yeah, exactly.
And took the time to find the brown ones, as Steve already.
Yeah, I didn't even know that brown Legos were a thing, right? Like, are those a rarity? Are those like the brown M&Ms or something? I don't know. It's hard to find.
And Steve specifically mentioned
racist Legos.
He mentioned how important the brown ones were. So I think Steve Harvey. I think he actually took that as kind of an act of racism. Maybe,
Stein,
to Steve Harvey, that could have been a borderline hate crime.
Stein, I got to tell you, man, you are very Trumpish today. What I mean by that is you're not taking responsibility for anything, and then you're saying some borderline racist comments.
No,
you're very Trumpy today. Are you sure you're not related
with Steve Harvey? I think it's a disgrace what happened.
No, it's not.
But some idiot producer on the Fox show said, no one's watching us on New Year's Eve. How can we spice this up a little bit? Mm-hmm. I know, we'll get Gronk in here.
Calling the kettle black.
I don't
you
think
just
Steve
called
Harvey
somebody
had
an
any
idiot
idea
producer.
That was coming.
Mm-hmm. You should really
that's why his reaction was, who's this guy? Why is he here?
He was in the dark. There's no doubt, right? He had to be in the dark.
I don't know about that. It could have been staged. I'm saying probably not. I'm going to say 90% it wasn't.
Well, how long do you think it took to create that?
Oh, days, maybe a month. I don't know.
We're talking a month. You think he just wants to?
Well, you know what?
That?
That's their fault because if they did a Lego thing of you, it would have taken 30 seconds.
This thing's a work of art.
It would have taken 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's true. Wait, did
right.
you
just one yellow Lego? That's just one little yellow one.
Yellow?
I don't know. Whatever the basic
what
Lego
are you talking
color
about? Yellow Lego.
Didn't he say he was talking about your? Never mind. Your genitalia?
I'm thinking Gronk slid some C notes over to whoever it was that built that thing, and like, it's like, look, this is going to be a joke.
I hope he did that.
This is what we're
I
going
hope he
to do.
did that.
No,
I'll
wait.
compensate you for.
Hold on, let's go back.
It's not
No,
like that.
no. Wait, let's go back to that genitalia comment you just made.
Did
for a
I
second.
Did I misunderstand what you said?
Did you just say a yellow Lego?
Yeah.
Does my skin look like it's yellow to you? What are you talking about?
Like a Simpson character.
Does anybody know what this guy's talking about?
Do they have like?
Have you lost your mind? A yellow.
I have CTE actually.
You've been hit too many times in the head.
Playing football at a very high level.
I also clearly have CTE.
Yeah. He has all those concussions from.
It must have been from that
right.
car accident you got into in my car that you failed to tell me about.
It all comes full circle. There you go.
It must have been that.
When he drilled that cement pole, he had his seventh concussion.
I did hit my head pretty hard. That's
By the
true.
way, I've had 3 requests in the last couple days. New Year's, they said my New Year's resolution should be make fun of you a lot more on the air.
People said that?
They find yes, three people in the last 24 hours.
Was one of them Marge?
No.
Okay.
No,
Because Marge, I think,
one of them was a friend of mine who listens to the
people
show.
that are in this building.
She wouldn't play that game.
I'm way too nice to
the
you.
3 people that are sitting in the studio.
Let me
right
tell
now.
you
Okay,
something,
I
my
get it.
friend. No more Mr. Nice Guy to you in 2020. Okay, I'm too nice to you.
Okay.
Those days are over.
Okay.
Those days are over. All right. Well, we got to take
And
a
the
break.
show's over.
Yes, the show. Chris, see, this is. I'm nice to Chris. Chris does a good job. He doesn't sit in a high chair in the studio. All right, guys, we're going to take a 21-hour break, and we will be back at you. Sean Hannity coming up tomorrow. Everybody, have a great night. Sean Hannity coming up next.
Your home for Sean